Hello, reader. This is Brittany Wang, the author of the audiobook you're about to listen to, which will be read for you by the very talented Talon David. Before the audiobook begins, please note that this story, Palace of Potions, is part 2, or episode 2, of a 6-book YA fantasy miniseries. If you missed part 1, you can access all 6 audiobook videos through the playlist linked in the description below, and I hope you enjoy the story so much.
Palace of Potions, The Sylph Trial. On Wings of Ashen Dust, Episode 2. By Brittany Wang. Narrated by Talon David. Chapter 1. As Aaron and I are escorted to our chambers, the hallways of Eldor's palace are so deathly quiet, I feel more like I'm in a whitewashed tomb. I stifle a shudder, though I tell myself it's more because the blazing sun is now gone, leaving the Sky City as cold at night as it is hot during the day. I'm used to the roar of waves, chattering crewmates, and the view of vast open seas. But here it's an endless maze of towering hallways filled with bookcases, paintings, and more sculptures of important fae of the past than actual living ones. And it doesn't help that every sylph we do pass peers at me like I'm the one speck of dirt in their pristine sanctuary. As I wonder if they were born with their noses stuck up in the air like that, the guards lead us past a series of windows that carry a much more impressive scene. The lights of the Sylph city sparkle against a darkening sky. Flying vessels sail among the clouds as if they ride on white waves, glittering pixie dust trailing from their rudders. I drag my feet, wishing I could fly up to one of the ships right now and get a better look, but the guards push me forward. I've definitely got to get me one of those, I say under my breath. Strangest ships I've ever seen, Aaron whispers from beside me, the gills on his neck pulsing. Strange? I scoff. More like miraculous. Do you know how much pixie dust it must take to power one of those things? Tons, I'm sure. His mouth twists. Seems kind of unnatural. You mean like how your precious Calypso can travel underwater? That's different. At least it's still in the water. Sure. I humor him, but continue to watch the ships. By Phelan, if I had one of those, it'd be so much easier to pillage wherever. I stop. Aaron's giving me a look. Oh, come on. You can take the pixie away from the pirates, but you can't take the pirate out of the pixie. I'm sure your father wouldn't approve of that kind of vessel, with it being powered by magic and all. My father doesn't approve of anything I do, I mumble. That makes 2 of us. Really? I look up curiously. And here I thought Fish Boy could do no wrong. You'd be surprised, he says, and grows quiet. Before I can press further, a distinct, familiar sound breaks the silence. The call of a sparrow. My head whips up, and I nearly expect my crew to come barreling around the corner to break me out of here. But it's just a wishful thought. Wit would have made sure that wasn't a possibility. Instead, a parcel of birds swoop in and begin placing the books in their talons back onto shelves. Though I'm impressed by the well-trained fowl, I sigh. I wonder what my crew's reaction was when Wit told them what happened. What must they think of me as one of the royals we used to jeer at together, entering a competition for the fairy crown? Now I'll be the one they jeer at. I'll take her from here. Panic claws at my stomach as I face a familiar guard who grabs my arm roughly. His smug grin yanks at the scar I gave him. Moonface. Just what this terrible day needs. I catch Aaron's eyes as they dart to me, then narrow at Moonface. But he doesn't say a word. We both know he can't do anything now. And he shouldn't. He got me to Eldor, but I'm no longer his concern. I'm his competition. Are you sure, Jasper? The guards who've brought us this far look at each other. Because we were told Queen's orders. I'm to help her pirateness settle in properly. You 2 escort the Nymph heir to his room down the hall. Now get moving. Moonface gives them a foul sneer. Immediately, they clamp their mouths shut and hurry away with Aaron in tow. Aaron glances back at me one more time as I hear Moonface unlock a door nearby. Not so tough without your weapons, huh? Moonface hisses as he pushes me into my room. "What have you done with them?" I demand. "Did he toss them overboard back at sea? If he was smart, he would have sold them. They are Gwyllian crafted after all. But then again, he doesn't seem too smart."
"They are being safely stored, away from you."
He crosses his arms.
"I've come to tell you 2 things, pirate. First, you've been instructed by Her Majesty to stay put until you're summoned, so don't get any funny ideas. The windows are bolted shut, and a guard will be posted outside your door for good measure."
He's obviously prepared them for me. No matter. I shoot him a glare that says I'm not through with him yet. I'll find my weapons and get them back. Somehow. Especially my daggers.
"And the second is a warning from me."
He takes a step forward, lowering his voice to a growl.
"Now that you're in my territory, you'd better watch your back."
I step toward him as well, standing as tall as I can. "Oh yeah? Or you'll do what?" With one quick motion, he grabs my wrist and twists it backward. I curse the whimper that releases before I can bite it back.
"As you well know, I'm not the only soldier who despises your presence here,"
he snarls.
"And no one's going to care if you show up a little damaged to the competition. Not even your father. Everyone's heard the whispers that he only cares about the crown, not you."
He pushes me back and I cradle my wrist to my chest, the truth of his words stinging sharper than the pain.
"Like I said, I'd watch your back, pirate."
He strides to the door and glowers at me one more time.
"Especially now that I know where you sleep."
He locks the door behind him, and my stomach plummets. Trapped again. His threats could be empty, something to scare me just enough, but it's working. Quickly, I scan the room for anything I can use as a weapon. Grabbing a candelabra from the bedside, I yank off its 3 candlesticks and sit on the bed, watching the door. My pulse is racing, but if he or anyone else returns, I'll be ready. I'll stay up all night if I have to. Chapter 2. I can't catch my breath. I'm flying at top speed toward the minnow, but no matter how hard my wings flap, I'm not getting any closer to the sea. Birds and all kinds of creatures whip past me to escape the danger lurking behind. Heat licks at my back. I don't have to look to know it's swallowing everything in its path. Ahead, a raging windstorm rocks the minnow to and fro. My only chance of escape. I falter and topple to the ground. I squeeze the sand between my fingers, dragging myself through the coarse dust. Then I feel it. The ground is shaking. I look back. Phelan is engulfed in flames. The towering vine creaks and rocks in the wind like a reed. Crack! My heart pounds as the vine leans. It's falling straight toward me. It's going to crush me. I call for help, but my voice is ragged and hoarse. There's no one in sight. Throwing my hands over my head, I accept my fate. Someone pulls me up by the shoulders. They thrust something into my hand. My daggers. I face my rescuer only to stare into my brother's eyes. Paralyzed by the sight, all I can do is watch the vine's falling shadow cover us in darkness as Gaius opens his mouth. "Quinn! Gaius!" I sit up straight, soaked in sweat, panting for breath. I look around the dimly lit room, light peeking through billowing window drapes. There's a half-moon, half-sun symbol etched into the fireplace mantel at the foot of the bed, and I remember where I am. Eldor. Though the images that jolted me awake flee my mind before I can grasp them, a shuddering feeling remains. I shake my head. Whatever it was just a dream. Probably the result of Moonface's threats last night. I pull the velvet comforter closer, and the candelabra shifts in the sheets. I stayed awake as late as I could last night with the makeshift weapon in hand, but I must have nodded off. Curse this feather bed and all its comforts. A crackle sounds from the foot of the bed, and I'm wide awake. Gripping the candelabra again, I leap down, ready to pounce on the intruder. It's just a fire in the hearth. I relax. But a fire means someone was in my room while I was sleeping. I reassure myself it was probably just a servant, but even as the flickering heat reaches out to warm me, the pit in my stomach grows cold. Wait. Heat. The images from my dream return with vengeful clarity. Flames, Phelan on fire, flying but getting nowhere, and then Gaius. They're the same scenes I saw when the hooded figure in Shri touched me. Gaius's face flashes in my mind again. The same kind face I remember, but in the vision he was older, as old as the painting in his room depicted him. Pain pulses in my chest as I picture Gaius's tomb, remembering my vow. He was calling my name, handing me something. Our daggers. They're the only form of defense I had against any dangers I might face in this place, including my fellow competitors. What use will it be entering this stupid competition if I'm killed before I can compete? The memory of Moonface's laugh scurries over my skin like fleas. I can't get into the adjoining bathing room fast enough to wash away the thought of him. He must have my weapons somewhere in this place. That's it. Today, I reclaim my weapons. I rush into the White Room, forsaking my clothes and stepping into the porcelain shower. My wings release, and I expand them to their full length for the first time in days. Though I wince at the soreness, the rushing water brings me back to the sea, calming my entire being, giving new life to my bones. I feel halfway normal as I dry off, but then I spot my dirty Sylph captain clothes on the ground. Braving a whiff, I nearly retch at the stink. I can't very well put those back on. Spotting the wardrobe on the other side of the room, I cling to my towel and fly over the bed to reach it. I sift through the collection, disappointed. It's packed with Gwyllian garments my father sent with me on the Sylph ship. Rummaging through plain-colored dresses and fur-lined cloaks, I finally settle on a set of light trousers and a tunic. They're meant for training, but at least I won't melt under Eldor's blazing sun. After putting them on, I gaze into the full-length mirror. I've dressed up as so many different fairy folk in the past to hide my true identity. These clothes are meant for the Gwyllian heir I was born to be. And yet, I don't recognize myself at all. Will I ever feel like me again? I ask the mirror. Once you get your weapons back, you will, the reflection seems to say. I nod in agreement. All I need to do is give the guard outside the slip. An impish smile forms just thinking about what I will do to Moonface if he ever enters my chambers again. I can't finish getting dressed fast enough. Finding the candelabra again, I hold it behind my back as I approach the door, ready to knock out whoever enters. Hello? I call as sweetly as I can. Can I get some help in here, please? No answer. Hello? I say louder with an edge to my voice. Seriously, I could be dying in here. I jiggle the handle to show my imaginary need, but the door is unlocked. Pulling it inward, I peer through the crack. The hallway is empty. Strange. I step out tentatively. This could easily be a test from Moonface. A trap. With each step, I whip my head in either direction down the hall, but no one appears. Finally, I shrug. If the guards are going to be lazy and irresponsible, they're the ones who will have to deal with Moonface later. I'm not going to complain. This time, I sneak through the hallways unescorted. Careful to evade servants and nobles, I keep a lookout for Moonface and anywhere he might have my weapons stored. I also steal more glances out the windows at the floating city and flying ships. Among them, I spot an outdoor stadium below. There seems to be some kind of construction going on as 5 stone platforms take shape. Though I'm curious, I move on. There'd be no point in storing my weapons there. Hearing voices, I peer around the corner, where a handful of guards are loading cargo into a room with a large metal door. The sign above the door draws a smile across my face. Armory.
Make sure those are tucked far in the back. Jasper doesn't want them to see the light of day until he says so.
One of them orders another. I squint at the blades he carries. The careful detailing and craftsmanship are distinctly Gwyllian. My heart races, and I'm tempted to launch at them, but there's no way I can take on all these guards unarmed. Unless there's another way in, maybe a hidden entrance or even a vent. I back away slowly and knock into a pedestal behind me. A vase painted with Phelan's map teeters dangerously on top. I scramble to catch it, but it slips through my fingers, shattering against the stone floor.
Hey, what's she doing here?
Blast! I've been spotted. My wings release and I fly down the corridors as the guards dart after me. My heart thuds in my chest, but I'm all smiles. How I've missed flying, and the thrill of the chase.
Watch out!
I knock over a scribe who impedes my escape, sending his scrolls flying into the air. The scribe yells at the guards to help him. I smirk. That should slow them down a bit. Turning a corner, I dart into a vacant room. I stifle my heavy breathing as I pull the door in until all I can see is a sliver of the hallway.
I think she went this way!
A guard calls as they whisk right past me and turn down another bend. I release a soft chuckle and turn to face the room, only to realize I have no idea where I am. Great. Well, I can't go back the way I came. Not yet, at least. Forward it is. The narrow room I've stumbled into is lined with a series of beautiful murals that reach from the floor all the way up to the high ceilings. As I walk toward the other end, they seem to tell a story. The origin myth of our world. Emphasis on the word myth, of course. As I pass each scene, I recall the tale I heard as a sprite. On the first wall, the mural is black, with one orb of light glowing in the center. This they call the seed, the start of our world. I roll my eyes at the idea that all of Phelan could come from something so small. In the next scene, the sun and moon rain give life to the seed as it grows into the sacred vine. Its sprawling roots form the land, the waters, and spawn Phelan's creatures. Then come the Fae. 5 different colored stones gleam at the top of the next mural. Green, blue, red, gold, and purple. Each of them hover over a different fairy race. It's said that the stones came from the moons above, each of them giving life and power to the fairy clan that possessed it. Not that I've ever seen them myself. Every clan leader keeps their moonstone hidden away, passing it down to their heir when they rise to rule. A heaviness settles in my stomach as I realize I'll be the one to bear the weight and responsibility of the coveted red Gwyllian stone next. Each successive mural then depicts how the different provinces were formed. The Sylphs took to the skies, while the kobolds created tunnels in the ground, leaving the rest to divide the territories in between. Gwyllians flew to the mountains, the nymphs to the waters, and the dryads to the woods. As if it was ever going to be that easy, that we'd all just claim a place and be happy with our lot. I trail my fingers across the next scene, where all Phelenians are depicted separately but at peace, sharing resources and happily using their ethos to serve the greater good of Phelan. I nearly laugh. Such harmony is certainly something I've never seen. The next mural displays where things went terribly wrong. Grotesque, wingless, murderous giants salivate for fairy blood. The Pneuma. Though I know the images aren't real, I can't help but inch back. The painting shows them invading our land, enchanting the dragons to attack the cities, and forcing the Fae to do their bidding. My heart twinges, and an unfamiliar sadness tugs at me. But I shove the feelings away. That's not the end of the tale. The fairies fought back. In the next scene, the Sylph Lord leads the charge against the invaders. In his hand, he holds up a magic weapon, the Sylphic Scepter. Supposedly, he used it to banish the Pneuma to a dark realm called the Neverworld. However, the magical staff disappeared long ago, along with any evidence of that dark realm. How convenient. Still, the story says that the rest of the clans felt so indebted to the Sylphs that they made the Sylph Lord and his clan the permanent rulers over all, securing their station ever since. I sigh, staring at this last image longer than the others. The Sylph victory is where the murals end, depicting them as Phelan's benevolent heroes. But, as my father always loved to say, the trouble just got worse from there.
Without the Ethodine competition to provide balance, the greediness of those blasted Sylphs just keeps growing to new heights.
Is how fate intended to finish the story. While traveling with the pirates, I'd learned just how right he was. The Sylphs abuse their power, favoring certain clans based on what they can provide, pitting them against each other. Of course, the moonrain drought and dwindling supply of pixie dust hasn't helped, only adding to the conflict. Still, each of the other clans somehow believes they'd be able to fix things if only they could rule. With the Ethodine resurrected, I guess we'll find out if any of them will get the chance. Chapter 3. Reaching the end of the mural room, I nudge open the door and peer out into another hallway. Empty for now. I'd better get moving. As I slink along the walls, I take in other aspects of the palace. Everything here is so polished, so grand, so expensive. Gold elements decorate the walls, begging to be swiped. After making sure no one is watching, I pause by an ornate table and pick up a gilded bowl. What were they thinking, letting someone like me in here, let alone inviting me in? I turn the bowl over in my hand. Just one of these would feed my crew for a month. My crew, my ship, my freedom. For a moment, I wonder what would have happened if I'd gotten back to the minnow in time. Could I have won them back to my side? I shake my head. It's not worth dwelling on. I'm bound to the competition, still caged. If only I could cling onto something familiar, even just the smell of the ocean. I close my eyes and breathe in wistfully, imagining my ocean view. I call back the feeling of being at sea, the wind in my curls, sea salt in the air. But it isn't my seawater home that I smell. Something else tickles my nose. Something syrupy sweet. I set down the bowl, and I'll be back for you later. Right now, I follow my nose to an arched doorway that leads outside. Stepping into the warm sunlight, I find myself in the royal gardens. Flowers, fruits, and vegetables of all different colors grow in rows upon rows. As I'm trying to decide where to start exploring, my stomach rumbles, never ashamed to remind me when it's hungry. I pull down a piece of fairy fruit from a nearby tree and bite into its crisp skin, the delicious juices running down my chin. I haven't tasted fruit this fresh in maybe ever. My taste buds satisfied, I turn my attention back to the original scent. It grows stronger as I follow it to a clearing encircled by a series of tall rose bushes. I duck down behind them, peering through the thorns. In the middle of the clearing, I spot the back of a lone puck. He's busy humming a jubilant tune as he paints at an easel in front of him. But it's his long hair that catches my attention. Though he looks my age, it's stark white, a color I've only ever seen on one other youngling. Gaius, I whisper softly. It can't be. I hold my breath as I shift around the bushes to get a better look. But this puck's wings are more bat-like, and his face is much too long and pale to be my brother. There's something strange about his features, though. His ears are unusually long, flopping out to the side, but that's not it. I squint, trying to pinpoint what it is. Actually, that would be hickory. A sharp whisper corrects me out of nowhere. Startled, I move to throw my fruit at the possible assailant, but all I see is a gardener kneeling beside a nearby bush, tending to the soil. The pixie gives me a tight smile from under the wide brim of her straw hat, her many freckles shifting with the crinkling of her nose. Ah, I sigh, relieved it isn't a guard. What did you say? The puck you're observing? The gardener motions to the white-haired puck with her shovel. His name is Hickory, heir to the kobold lord. Ah, another competitor. I watch in wonder as I realize he's coaxing the paint colors out of jars with dramatic motions, the paints obeying every wave and flick of his hand. A wide grin draws across the puck's lips, as if he's pulling off some great scheme. He looks like he's enjoying himself, I say. I've seen artists paint along the docks before, but none as gracefully or joyfully as this puck. He always does. The gardener snorts, returning to her work as she mutters, especially when his paints are laced with dust. Pixie dust. I knew I recognized the smell. Hickory might actually be a competitor I want to know more about. This gardener seems knowledgeable enough, unsurprising for a sylph, of course. Perhaps I can draw out a bit more information. If she's anything like Wit, all I need to do is start challenging her, poking holes in her intellect. Strange, I start. I don't think I've ever seen a kobold painter before. Are you sure that's him? Though the kobold ethos is creativity, their skills are usually more mechanical, a much more lucrative ability in these times. Of course I'm sure, she huffs, a defensive tone rising in her voice. He's just as crazy as any kobold, particularly fond of fey history and wild conspiracy theories. But he's such a fantastic painter. Pretty much all the murals in the castle are his. My eyes grow wide, recalling the scale and masterfulness of the murals I just saw. It's a pity he's only got one good eye. She peers up at me. If he's this skilled with only one eye, imagine how incredible he'd be with two. I see it now. That's what bothered me before. One of Hickory's eyes moves frantically as he paints. It's a dark brown. The other, however, is icy blue and barely moves, shaded as if covered by mist. There's a risk he could lose sight in the good one as well, the pixie adds, her voice softening for a moment. But that only seems to spur him to paint more while it lasts. I press my lips together in pity. At least he still has time to do what he loves before it's taken away from him, like it was from me. I shift to the other side of the gardener, catching a better view of Hickory's latest work. The painted gardens come to life on the canvas with a glorious waterfall pouring into a stone fountain. In front of it, a figure takes shape, but not enough to make out who it is. Unless you want a portrait without a head, you might try holding still, Hickory calls to the subject ahead of him. Well, then it wouldn't be much of a challenge for you, would it? Everyone knows how talented you are with still objects. What's life without a little test of skills? I know that voice. Following Hickory's gaze, I move a few steps and glimpse where the circle of bushes opens into an alcove. There, I spot none other than Aaron. He's dramatically posing in front of the same fountain in the painting, standing strong and proud, his fin-like wings extended in the air. His expression is hard and focused as he gazes upward, dressed to the nines below the torso, but unsurprisingly bare-chested yet again. The pixie on the ground must see me staring. Ah, and that masterpiece, she whispers half-mockingly, is Sir Aaron himself. Heir of the Nymphs, I finish. Yes, I've had the pleasure of meeting him already. Though I still don't know how I feel about that. For all his kindness, he's still the reason I'm weaponless. As I pull back the shrubbery a bit more, the branches crack and Aaron's eyes shift, finding me through the leaves. Now, aware he has an audience, he puffs out his chest and gives me a wink. Oh, put a shirt on. The gardener notes my disdain and her eyes spark. Interesting. Most pixies find him irresistible, until they realize what a pompous, self-absorbed flirt he is. I raise a brow. The grit in her voice makes me wonder if she knows this from personal experience. Does he flirt with everyone, even the help? The pixie he married must not know him too well, I say, biting into my fruit again. Oh, didn't you hear? The gardener's brows shoot up, a smug smile pulling at her freckles. He fled Nymph territory right before the wedding, leaving his blushing bride at the altar. What? I nearly choke. Where'd you hear? Suddenly, the garden grows dark, as if the sun has disappeared. A chill runs through me, and I look up. It's not a cloud or a flying vessel. The deafening roar of a beast booms through the air as a massive green dragon descends upon the gardens. Its muscular wings send a whirling wind through the bushes, and Hickory lunges for his paints, darting behind a tree. Aaron slips behind the waterfall, practically disappearing into the water as his skin shifts to blue. I tell my body to run too, but my feet are bolted to the ground. Memories of dragon attacks on Grey Marrow flash in my mind. This is exactly why I need my daggers. I curse and take a step back, readying myself to flee. Wait! My informer waves to me hurriedly while ducking behind a tree. You're going to want to see this. Heart pounding, I hold steady as the dragon lands with a thud. The dust settles, and I spot a figure sitting atop the beast. A pixie. Dressed from head to toe in black, she swoops down on translucent jade-colored wings and walks casually toward its smoke-breathing head, placing a gloved hand calmly on its nose. I can't believe my eyes. Who is that? I can barely get the words out. That beast-taming phenomenon, the gardener says, nodding to her, is Alice, heiress to the Dryad throne. The Dryad lifts her hood to reveal a petite brown face, its perimeter lined with black vine-like tattoos. From her tightly woven ebony braids to her toned figure, everything about her says huntress and warrior. But something in her eyes tells a different story. She rubs her cheek against the dragon's face, and my mouth hinges open. How in Phelan is she doing that? Pretty incredible, huh? Even dryads usually stay clear of dragons, but they found that one as an egg. Alice grew up right alongside him, training him herself. She even named the creature Tamer. Barely knows he's a dragon. Toma's long tail wags before Alice sends him on his way. There's a lot of mystery surrounding that pixie, too, the gardener adds. What do you mean? Take her gloves, for instance. She never takes them off. Rumor has it she wears them because, instead of a healing gift, she has a gift of death. The pixie looks for my reaction as I cock a brow and cross my arms. A gift of what now? I've heard of many types of magic, but this one sounds too powerful, too dangerous to be true. She shrugs. Believe what you will, but her older sister really should be the one up for the Dryad crown, competing in the Ethodine. She died very young, and shortly after her death, Alice started wearing those gloves. But don't bother asking her if it's true. Why's that? Sizing Alice up, she's obviously a fantastic beast tamer, but from her gentleness with the dragon, I wouldn't have pegged her as a killer. She's mute, the gardener says matter-of-factly. All three of them are pretty impressive competitors, don't you think? Gathering her tools, she looks up at me. A competitor like yourself might be intimidated by such a challenge. I freeze. This pixie servant is sharp, though it's possible my Gwyllian garb gave me away. I relax. Yes, well, I guess I should be thanking you for all your valuable insight. I put out a hand toward her. How do you know so much about them anyway? Standing to meet me face to face, she's taller than I expected. She laughs, this time with a darker tone, as she pulls off her hat and long red locks fall over her shoulders. Oh, I always make it a point to know my competition. There's a disdain in her voice that wasn't there before. She pulls off a glove and grips my hand, hard. I'm Princess Vale, and you must be the pirate my mother invited. Chapter 4. I blink in disbelief. You sure don't look like a princess. I bite into my fairy fruit and cross my arms, sizing Vale up in her dirt-stained trousers. She wipes a bead of sweat from her brow before pulling her scarlet hair into a ponytail. I could say the same about you. Pirate, yes. Princess, not quite, I mutter. Well, you're definitely not queen material. She glares, ruffling her white-feathered wings. I narrow my eyes, but before I can shoot something back, a familiar voice cuts through the growing tension.
Why don't you lovely ladies come out here and mingle with the rest of us unfortunate souls?
Aaron is peering through the brush, still drip-drying from the fountain as his skin returns from blue to warm olive, while Hickory and Alice stand inquisitively behind him. Wishing to get as far away as possible from her spoiled highness, I emerge, and Vale reluctantly follows. Now out in the clearing, all of us stand in a circle. All 5 rivals together for the first time, eyeing each other.
Good to see you're out of your stuffy room,
Aaron comments to me.
Any trouble with the guards?
Actually, there weren't any. I halted his smirk. Wait, did you get rid of them?
I may have strongly suggested they take a nice long walk.
Aaron shrugs casually. I grin in thanks, but Vale looks between us with a scowl. Hickory, Alice, this is Lady Quintessa of Greymarrow, the vagrant. She grits her teeth, motioning to me in feigned courtesy. She obviously wants to make sure everyone knows who I am, what I am. Surprisingly, Hickory's good eye lights up.
Ah, yes, Captain Shade.
He offers his hand amicably, but it awkwardly lands off to my right. I reach for it and give it a shake, appreciating his use of my pirate title.
Forgive me.
He laughs.
Depth perception is not my strong suit. Must be why I tend to stick to 2-dimensional planes.
He motions back toward his canvas. Despite my usual distrust of kobolds, I smile back. His easy demeanor reminds me of Gaius even more. My heart twists. Please, call me Quinn. The politeness in my voice surprises even me, but I find myself wanting to keep it up. This is what Gaius would have done. He would have been diplomatic instead of cutthroat. If I'm going to truly honor my brother, I have to play the part. Alice holds her hand out to me next, though her face is void of any readable emotion. I hesitate. I have no reason to trust Vale, but if Alice's gloves don't do the job, I don't want to find out firsthand if the rumors about her death grip are true. I glance at Vale, but she shrugs as if to say, "It's your funeral." Alice's mouth purses as she starts to retract her gesture, but I shoot my hand forward and grab hers with a firm grip, relieved when I don't drop dead. It's Alice, right? I ask. She nods, her rigid stance slightly relaxing. But just as quickly, she flinches and yanks her hand back as if I'm the one who's hurt her. I rub my hands together to subtly check. I didn't feel the heat rise, and my palms are cool. What was that?
You look confused,
Aaron says with an amused expression. I look from Alice to the rest of them. Honestly, I expected you all to be at each other's throats. They let out a chorus of snickers, giving each other strange smiles. Oh, we all hate each other's guts, Vale assures me, hand on her hip. But there's too much history between our families to act like animals. At least in public arenas. History? I rack my brain, trying to recall if I met any of them before I ran away.
It must have been a year or 2 after you disappeared,
Hickory says.
When we reached mentoring age, we all began formal training as future clan leaders. Our parents even brought us along to the Queen's Council meetings. That is, until the gatherings became more, let's just say, uncivilized.
You could say that again, hence the council completely disbanding. Aaron crosses his arms.
Our parents get to act like spoiled imps, threatening war and uprising. But we're not allowed to say boo to each other.
Alice grimaces in agreement. I picture them as fresh younglings, privy to the ever-growing tensions between the clan leaders. but I know one face is missing from their usual company today. You all knew my brother, then? I ask softly. Their countenances drop. Hickory nods solemnly, his eyes softening.
What happened to Gaius was a tragedy.
Alice bites her lip, and Aaron nods slowly, avoiding my gaze. I let their condolences wash over me, grateful. Until Vale scoffs. Oh, please.
Vale.
Aaron scolds. Oh, come on, Aaron, she says. You can't tell me you weren't relieved with one less competitor to challenge. Not that Gaius was a real threat to begin with. I know she's trying to get to me, but my fist still tightens around the fruit in my hand. The juice is oozing over my fingers. The others look apologetic, but Vale's words make me question their sincerity. No disrespect to the dead Lady Grey Marrow. Vale bows mockingly. But don't let these sad faces fool you. We weren't friends, and you couldn't have cared about him much either. I grit my teeth, grasping for composure. Princess or not, who does she think she is? You don't know anything about me. A warning rises in my voice. You're right, she shrugs. All I know is that you only cared to come back after he was gone, and you could take his crown. For all we know, you killed him yourself. Something inside me snaps. I throw down the fruit and extend my wings, lunging in her direction with a warrior-like yell. Vale's eyes go wide, bracing herself as I come crashing down on her. Without weapons, we throw punches, mine hitting harder and more accurately, of course, yelling as we pull at each other's hair like little sprites. The others rush to break us up, but we don't yield. Enough! A commanding pixie voice echoes through the garden. We freeze. A circle of Sylph soldiers surrounds us with swords drawn and ready. We stand, brushing ourselves off in embarrassment. But Vale and I glare at each other, silently vowing that this isn't over. One of the guards steps forward.
You have been summoned. Please follow us.
We obey, but his voice is not the one that stopped us before. I look around for who commanded such attention. Before we disappear into the castle, I spot her on a balcony. Or at least her back. Her cape is a blur of purple as she retreats into the shadows. The Queen. The Queen's Hall is the grandest room yet. Footsteps echo off the walls up the tall pillars and high ceilings, as all 5 of us make our way across the marble tile. At the far end, 3 tall windows line the wall, highlighting the grand sky city outside and the gleaming white throne in front of us. Out of its back grow elegant white branches that reach up and outward with a flock of birds perched within them. They ruffle their feathers at our approach. Below them, sitting poised in all her glory, is Queen Gwendolyn. From the stories, I imagined her face would be cold and haggard, the visage of a terrifying tyrant. Taking in her presence now, she's indeed powerful, but also stunning. From her golden blonde hair to her light skin, she shines like a star standing out from the darkening sky behind her. With Vale's fiery red hair and freckled skin, I can barely tell Queen Gwendolyn is her mother, save for the same tilted smile creeping up in the corner of her mouth. Vale obviously takes more after her father, the late Sylph King. As we approach, we're guided by our escorts into an arc around the throne. The other 4 take a knee, and a guard touches the tip of his blade to my back, giving me the hint that it isn't optional. I drop down as well, but sneak a glance upward as the Queen stands to greet us. She's tall like Vale, almost as tall as the rest of her guards, and she commands complete attention.
Welcome, all of you,
she says warmly, motioning for us to rise.
You've been summoned here for a great honor, to compete for the crown on my head.
She touches it lightly before gracefully folding her hands. Though she knows the hatred the other clans have for her, there isn't a touch of resentment in her voice. But I've learned not to trust first impressions. Everyone is always hiding something. As she descends the dais steps, a dove flies from her throne and lands on her shoulder. Picking a seed from a pocket in her gown, she feeds the bird and strokes its head as she walks down the line of us, starting with her daughter. Vale straightens under her stare, her reverence and admiration evident in every muscle. In the first era of our kind, the clans decided who would rule through a series of trials. Each of the 5 trials focused on one etho: knowledge, beauty, life, creativity, or strength. All 5 formed the collective Ethia. Our ancestors wisely decided that the clan leader who proved to be the master of the Ethia would be crowned king or queen of the Fae. And so, each clan created its own trial for the heirs to pass. She stops in front of Hickory as she reaches for the amulet hanging around her neck, playing with the crystal gem on the chain. And why have we not held this competition for over a millennium? She asks the history expert. Hickory straightens.
After the Sylph Lord defeated the Numa, they peacefully did away with it.
Correct. The Queen continues. Sadly, peace is dwindling more every day. Never in Phelan's history have we Fae been at such odds with each other. Thus, the clans have decided to resurrect this ancient event in the hopes that we can circumvent war, settling once and for all which clan is worthy to rule. She pauses, brows knitting together. But this time, it will be the Ethodine to end all Ethodines. Each clan has agreed. Whichever heir wins will secure their rule permanently. No more grumbling or talk of uprising or war. In fact, the losing heirs will show their allegiance by pledging a blood oath and handing over their moonstone to the winner. My eyes grow wide. I can't believe the clan lords have agreed to such humiliating and intense conditions. Spilling their own blood in honor of another clan? Losing their most sacred stones of power forever? But the Queen isn't done. I also warn you to be just as concerned with your diplomacy as with your training. Whoever wins the throne will also gain the power to dispose of any difficult clan leaders they so choose and select another more agreeable fairy from that clan to rule instead. I swallow hard. No wonder my father is so desperate to win. Without me to compete, he's already lost everything. Potentially even our family's claim to the Gwyllian throne. With me, he and our family line could rule all of Phelan, forever unchallenged. Over the course of the next 5 weeks, the Queen continues, we will travel to the different provinces for each round of the competition, beginning here in Eldor, and ending in Greymarrow. The Queen stops in front of me, looking deep into my eyes. Even the beady eyes of the dove on her shoulder seem to watch me carefully. I glare back. The fact that she allowed me to take Gaius's place is the reason I've been dragged into this. But the Queen only smiles before returning to her throne, the train of her purple gown trailing behind her. You will have a few days in each province for final training, but once a trial has commenced, there is no turning back. At the end of each round, you will be ranked by that particular trial's standards, awarding you points based on your ranking. And at the end of the Ethodine, we will have a new ruler of Phelan. Her eyes grow soft. I must warn you, however, the Ethodine is not for the faint of heart. It will stretch you in every way. And, unfortunately, I cannot guarantee you will all survive. Hickory shifts uncomfortably, while Aaron shoots a side glance at Vale. Even Alice's mouth parts in surprise before she clamps it closed again. They've been trained with a royal education, but also pampered and cared for their whole lives. I, on the other hand, have taken care of myself since I was a sprite. Even with parents, it is the Gwyllian way to make their young strong. At least I have that going for me.
That being said, there are rules set for your protection. While you will be at odds during each trial, you will not show aggression otherwise.
I expect her to glance my way, but instead she gives Vale a look of warning. Vale lowers her eyes to the floor.
You will be escorted to training sessions and meals, and your rooms will be guarded at night. But you will not be constantly monitored. You are old enough to take care of yourselves. If you are found to have attacked or harmed any of your fellow competitors off the battlefield, you will be disqualified and sent home in shame.
Now her gaze lands on me.
Your first challenge will take place at the end of this week. All I can tell you is that it will require a thorough knowledge of our world and history. I send you off to the Royal Library to begin your studies. You'll surely need it if you wish to survive.
Chapter 5. As we walk through the gilded doors of the Royal Library, they open to reveal a vast area filled with rows upon rows of bookcases. 3 levels of them line the room on either side of us, connected by grand, winding stairs, though many Sylphs seem to prefer flying from level to level instead. As we walk past scribes scrawling away at wooden desks, the smell of parchment and ink fills the air. Ouch! I yelp as something whacks the back of my head. An owl with a heavy book in its talons flies over me. It lands on one of the scribes' desks next to a raven and a dove.
Oh yes, do watch out for the parakeets, Vale smirks. Well-trained keepers of the library, but not always the most considerate flyers.
Thanks for the heads up, I mutter crossly, rubbing the bump growing on my head. I keep an eye out for more flying vermin as I survey the space and notice this is much more than just a library. Above us, the sky spans the entire ceiling behind a pattern of glass panes where puffy clouds and flying vessels pass by. Thankfully, the panes are tinted just enough to let the scene in, but keep extreme heat out. A series of terraces punctures an outer wall for outdoor viewing.
Happy studying,
Hickory says as he flies off to one of them. A few Sylph apprentices peer up from their telescopes, shooting him irritated looks at the invasion, but Hickory's too busy gazing over the city to notice. He leans on the rail and pulls out a sketchbook and quill from the canvas satchel slung across his body. I guess he'll be leaving his studies for later, though as far as I can tell, he may not need it as much as the rest of us. Obviously, neither does Vale. She'd much rather order us around.
Go on now.
She waves dismissively toward the shelves.
You'll find the books and study areas that way.
I hold my ground in protest, but Alice doesn't seem bothered by Vale's tone in the least. She promptly turns and flies to the second floor, where a flock of parakeets pause in organizing the shelves to let her pass. Some of them abandon their duties to flutter after her. Interesting pixie, that one. Sighing at the overwhelming number of options, I look for a place to start as Vale steps closer to Aaron.
Unless anyone would like a personal tour?
She asks him, a suggestive smirk pulling at her mouth.
I'm good, thanks.
Aaron shoves his hands into the pockets of his breeches and takes off toward the first level of stacks. Vale huffs and turns her focus to a wall of shelves ahead, filled with not only books, but also bottles and vials of all shapes and sizes. The area is sectioned off by a half-wall where students hunch over tables of ceramic cups and rounded, long-necked flasks filled with strange, bubbling substances. Gray-haired sylphs in professors' robes loom around them, doling out instructions.
The potions section is restricted to approved staff and students only.
Vale eyes me as if daring me to follow.
You may look, but not enter. No vagrants allowed.
My lips twist into a scowl as I watch her take the pouch of herbs she gathered in the garden from her belt and flutter over the half-wall. As she approaches 2 of the professors, they bow low and beam at her findings. I turn to leave, but pause in front of a nearby bookcase when snickers from a table just over the wall find my ears. "They'll think she's so smart," grumbles a pixie, fidgeting with the pink bow around her high-collared blouse, matching her pink-tinted feathers. "I can't wait to see her face when I finally surpass her in marks this semester."
And how do you plan to do that?
One of the pucks whispers, peering through spectacles as he pours a powdered substance into his beaker. "I've been staying up till sunrise for a week studying, but you'd never know it." Making sure their professors aren't around, the pixie plucks what appears to be a compact perfume bottle from her clutch. "I swiped this from the professor's private stash. One spray of this puts me right into a deep sleep for a single hour, but when I wake, I feel like I've slept all night."
Brilliant,
murmurs the puck as the others nod emphatically. More like brilliantly boring. I roll my eyes. All that intelligence, and that's what she chooses to use it for? No longer intrigued, I turn back to the bookcases. I'm not sure where to start, so I randomly grab texts from each stack I pass, ranging on topics from Phelan history and celestial bodies to the art of potions and other self-magic. For a brief moment, I wonder if there's any information on an ability like mine amidst all of these records. I shrug off the idea. If nothing else, at least these will be effective in putting me to sleep. Finding a table near a window, I crack open the first one on Sylph society and their city's construction. As I predicted, it isn't long until I find myself rereading the same sections over and over, jumping from book to book for anything that will keep my attention. The words are blurring together and barely anything is sticking in my brain. There aren't even any interesting pictures. Eventually, I slam the book in my hand shut and push it away. This is impossible. I could study all day and never learn enough. How do I even know if any of this will come up during the trial? I stand to put back the books where I found them, but I'm too turned around in the maze of stacks. I look up and down the aisle I'm in. With no one in sight, I place the books randomly on a shelf they obviously don't belong on. Then, an idea hits me. I might not be able to beat the others in knowledge, but it would definitely be harder for them to study if they can't find the books they're looking for. Quietly, I walk up and down the stacks, pulling out random texts and purposely reshelving them in the wrong spots. As I remove one at eye level, Aaron's face appears behind it.
What are you doing?
He asks. I fumble with the text in my hand and nearly drop it. Trying not to have a heart attack, no thanks to you.
You know the parakeeps are just going to reorganize those later, he says. They scour the shelves each night to make sure everything is where it belongs.
I knew that, I say, keeping my inner grumbling to myself. Stupid birds. One less reason to care about where they go then, right? I force the book back on the shelf, covering his face. I turn to leave the aisle, but he pops out right in front of me, startling me again. Will you stop doing that?
So skittish all of a sudden.
Aaron observes me with a smirk. Well, getting jumped in a dark Shree alleyway might have something to do with it. Not to mention Moonface's threats to watch my back. I cross my arms. Aaron frowns.
Right. Well, whoever they were, I'm sure they won't be able to get all the way up here.
He nods to the bookcases.
I'm guessing the studying isn't going very well?
Not even a little bit, I say, wiping dust from one of the spines. Aaron leans against the bookcase, watching me with curiosity. What?
Nothing. It's just interesting seeing how different you are.
I raise a brow at him, and he clarifies.
From Gaius, I mean. He seemed to like this place. He was always...
His voice tapers off, his eyes dropping from my face.
Sorry, I didn't mean to...
That's okay, I say softly, picturing Gaius, my twin yet opposite in every way, walking the same stacks. It's actually kind of nice hearing someone talk about him like he's still...
Here?
Aaron finishes. Yeah, I say, appreciating that he didn't use the word alive. He'd never admit it to our father, but he actually really enjoyed books and learning about the world outside our province. I can still picture him begging me to let him finish one more page before we started training, making me promise not to tell Phaedon.
You miss him?
Aaron nods. Well, of course I miss him. I start with an edge to my words. But the truth dies on my lips. An ache settles in my chest as I put a hand to the empty holster in my belt. The nightmare of Gaius handing me our twin blades flashes in my mind. The daggers that were taken from me were the last things I had of his.
Oh. I see.
Aaron's voice is soft, perhaps tainted with guilt. Now he knows why I pleaded for them in Dunestone. He takes a step toward me.
I'm sorry, Quinn. I didn't know.
It's fine. I draw back, shrugging it off, though the ache in my chest grows. Gaius should be the one that's here, not me. I don't belong here. How in Phelan did I think I could do this in his stead? I should go. I brush past Aaron before he can stop me and rush out the library doors into the hallway, never wanting to go back there again. Yet another place for Gaius to haunt me. Marching down the hallways back to my room, I turn a corner and halt as a chorus of arguing voices flow through a large archway. It's the loudest, most boisterous sound I've heard since entering Eldor. Finally, something interesting is happening. Taking a tentative step through, I enter a shallow hall that opens into the same outdoor stadium I saw when I first arrived. Staying in the shadows, I notice the 5 stone platforms that were under construction are now complete. Above, the lowest rows of stadium seats are filled with shouting Sylph nobles, the tassels of their purple and gold sashes fluttering in the wind. Ahead of me, the Queen stands with one of the nobles at a podium, one word chiseled into the wall above them. Cognoscium. Surprisingly, I recognize the word from one of the books in the library. If I remember right, this is where events like Sylph Court, academic lectures, and intellectual debates are held. Well, look at that. I guess I did learn something.
Order! We will have order!
The lead noble commands through a long bullhorn.
We will have order when Her Highness explains how pixie dust is continually disappearing from the royal treasury.
One calls out from another horn stationed in the stands.
Or what we're going to do about our wilting vegetation during this moonrain drought.
A contingent shouts their agreements as another speaks up from the other side of the stadium.
Why are we rewarding the other clan's insolence with a chance at the crown?
Yes, another agrees. And how does she plan to keep the gnolls from returning to Eldor when the other clans enter our borders for the first trial? Our city has been without infection for 5 years by holding our borders firm, and it only took one Gwyllian prince to bring it back to our doorstep. I cringe at the mention of my brother and the ever-growing onslaught of questions. I look back to the lead noble and the Queen, wondering how they plan to bring such a ruckus to order. If I were in charge, I would have already drawn my blades, challenging anyone to speak one more word. But the Queen has patiently listened to their grievances with the same poise she displayed in the Great Hall. Now she holds out her hand to the noble with the horn, who gladly relinquishes it to her.
Unless your desire is for war to be at our doorstep next, the Ethodine is our best option,
the Queen says calmly.
The Knowles incident was successfully isolated. There's been no spread, and those that are cleared to visit for the trial will be screened before they enter. Finally, I assure you, those who have been stealing from the royal coffers will be found and severely punished. In fact, we have a fresh batch of new recruits ready to triple our ranks and security.
She motions above her as a ship flies in from above, landing in the middle of the stadium. The nobles quietly lean forward as 10 rows of Sylph younglings in violet uniforms swoop out on their feathered wings in practice formation. They land in perfect lines, inspected by more seasoned guards as the nobles murmur and nod approvingly. Though these young soldiers are not nearly as tough-looking as Gwyllian ones, the sight reminds me of standing in similar lines with Gaius as the Gwyllian guard tore us a new one over our performance each day. Two of the senior guards stride toward me, taking a post near the Cognoseum entrance, and I draw further back into the shadows.
Did you hear?
One bumps the other with his elbow.
New recruits will be taking the midnight shift tonight.
Perfect, sighs the other, stifling a yawn.
I needed some good news today.
I grin as an idea takes hold, my mind shifting from preparing to plotting. Me too. Chapter 6. Back in my room, I keep myself busy until the dead of night. Gathering the tasseled ropes that tie my curtains, I place them on the bed and pace back and forth for a few other items I'll need. The last thing I want is to drift off to sleep. I'm not sure what I fear more, the nightmare of Phelan in ruins returning, or spending another night without protection. I got distracted earlier, but I can't wait any longer. It's time to get my weapons back. Aaron can't get rid of the guard outside my room this time, but at least whoever it is will be new and won't be expecting me. Fueled by the visions of Gaius and pumping adrenaline, I swing my chamber door open.
What the?
The guard on duty goes for his sword, but I'm faster. Flying toward him, I press my finger to a pressure point in his neck that Maverick taught me. I swipe the blade from his scabbard as he collapses to the floor. Best to leave no sign of injury if something goes wrong. Still, with my opponent down and a real weapon in my hand, I'm alive again. The sword isn't nearly as well crafted as my own, but it'll do for now. I drag the guard into my room, hastily tying him to the bedpost and dressing in his garb. I've impersonated a Sylph before. I can do it again. I pull my curls back into a tight braid and adjust my uniform in the mirror. Grabbing the guard's keys, I lock the door behind me. With the night shift underway, there's barely anyone in sight except for a few servants. Still, as I make my way down familiar stairs and hallways, I keep my hand on the hilt of the stolen sword and nod courteously to the few I pass. Finally, I reach the armory door with two new Sylph recruits standing guard. I know it's the middle of the night, but frankly, I'm insulted they don't have more guards on duty, knowing there's a pirate under their roof. Oh well, makes things easier for me. The shorter of the two eyes me curiously as I approach, but I stride over to him with confidence. I've been sent to relieve you. I lay on the Sylph accent thick, saluting him as I've seen other Sylphs do. He lifts a brow and looks at his pal.
We just got here not half an hour ago.
I shrug, racing to remember Moonface's real name. Jasper says he wants to see you immediately. It sounded urgent, and he didn't look happy. Thankfully, the guard's face turns from skepticism to panic, and he flies down the hall.
He's in the dungeons!
I add with urgency, chuckling to myself. And Sylphs are supposed to be the smartest of us all.
What's so funny?
The remaining guard eyes me, still not buying my act. Good. You know, I think it's this perfume I bought in town today, I say, pulling out a tiny pink bottle from my pocket. Ever since the first spray, I can't stop laughing. The guard takes a step back, but I've already puffed a cloud in his face. He blinks rapidly as it dissipates, and for a moment I fear it won't do anything but make him sneeze. But then his body goes slack and falls forward into my arms. See, I just can't stop. I snicker again, lowering him to the floor, silently thanking the pixie I tracked down and stole the potion spray off earlier. Taking the ring of keys from my victim's belt, I hurriedly try each one on the bolted door. The last one finally snaps into place, and I drag the young guard in with me. Walking into the armory is like walking into a Gwyllian's dream. Blades and daggers, bows and axes of every size and material line the walls. And standing out from all the rest, clearly made by the best Gwyllian welders, are my weapons. I fly toward them, sifting through the collection of knives and other small weapons Phaedon gave me before I left Greymarrow. My hands run over them tenderly. My oldest and dearest friends, you'd never betray me. After my inspection, however, two very important pieces are missing. Where are the daggers?
Don't move.
A gruff voice calls from the doorway. I curse. I was so excited I forgot to close the door behind me. You, Moonface snarls, pointing his sword in my direction.
I should have known it was you. Don't you ever give up?
Never. I grab 2 of my knives and sling them at him, but his feathered wings shoot him up out of range, and he lunges toward me. I need a weapon to match his blade, so I grab the nearest broadsword off the wall and release my own wings to meet him. The sound of steel twangs through the air, filling the armory. Where are my daggers, you imp? What did you do with them?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
His brows knit with rage as boots sound from the corridor. I'm about to be overrun. I have to get out of here. Fast. I swipe at an opening in Moonface's stance. He dodges, and I fly toward the door, only to come face to face with the Queen herself and a dozen of her guards. Blast! I lower my sword and surrender.
I was about to bring her to you, Your Highness,
Moonface explains breathlessly.
I believe she was trying to make a run for it.
His dirty mitts are on my things again. My fingertips prick with heat, and I wince. I glare at him before turning pleading eyes to the Queen. Even with her night clothes and crownless head, she looks regal and powerful, a sword of her own in her hand. Her face is firm, but she stares at me as if waiting for my side of the story. I wasn't trying to run away, I swear, I say, though I have no credibility to stand on. And I wasn't stealing. Those weapons are mine, and I want them returned.
Do you really expect us to let an armed pirate stroll about the palace?
Moonface scoffs. The other guards chuckle. The Queen does not. I plead directly with her again. Please, Your Majesty. I bow, desperate. You say we're not supposed to attack each other, but if anyone comes after me, I have no defense. All the other competitors grew up learning their magic, but those, I point to my weapons. Those are my magic. Of course, I also have flames that spontaneously burst from my hands, but I have no real control over them or the excruciating pain they cause. I have no desire to do anything but stuff them down and pretend they don't exist. My weapons are my true power. I hold my breath. It's the Queen's turn. This is her domain. She has the power to jail me, execute me on the spot, or worse, send me back to my father. Finally, the Queen nods to Moonface, who gives her a satisfied smile and returns my weapons to the armory shelves. I sigh, staring longingly after my darlings. Quinn. The Queen's gentle voice brings me back. I blink at her, thrown off by her use of my nickname. I've heard that's what you prefer to be called. Take a walk with me. She motions down the hallway. Assuming the alternative could be the dungeons, I follow. Returning her sword to the sheath at her side, she leads me down the corridor and outside to the same garden I'd been in only hours ago. Moonlit and completely quiet now, it's as if even the plants are asleep, swaying in the evening breeze, casting shadows. In all my years on the sea, I've never seen the stars so big and bright before. The moons appear close enough to touch. But the Queen isn't looking at the sky. She brushes a hand along the plants and herbs as she walks. There are many rumors about how I came to power, Captain. But I want you to know the real story. I'm about to ask why, but for once I keep my mouth shut. There's something about the Queen's presence, how she carries herself, that holds my attention. As you've probably heard, I didn't grow up in the Sylph court as most queens do. I grew up in Shree. My father was a Sylph guard while my mother learned the dryad ways and became a Sylph medic. She always loved studying plants and herbs. She pauses to pluck a dead leaf from a vine. When my father died on duty, my mother began bringing me to the palace as her assistant in serving the royal family. A particularly aggressive wave of the Knowles plague had just begun. Even the king couldn't escape it. Tending to him is where I met his 3 sons, Marcus, Leto, and Caleb. Unexpectedly, feelings developed between Marcus and me. It was young love between two fairies who didn't have any business being together. But Marcus didn't care. Our wedding day was the most wonderful event. The moonlight floods her skin, making it appear as if she's reverted to her youngling age along with the memory. But her sparkling eyes soon grow vacant and far off. It was wonderful, of course, until Marcus's father collapsed in my arms at the reception. It's then that I remember this marriage doesn't have a happy ending. She turns into the shadows to walk along a line of rose bushes. I hurry to follow, needing to hear what happened next. In one day, I became not only a princess, but also queen of all Phelan. A whirlwind of mourning and preparing for my new life all at the same time. Marcus, being the hopeless romantic he was, spent more time talking about us running away together than taking care of the kingdom. I loved him, but I also grew to resent him, as I took up the responsibilities he let fall by the wayside. Leto was always lurking in the shadow of his brother, wanting the crown, and, as I was to find out later, also wanting me. So when Marcus died of the plague as well, Leto didn't waste any time proposing, promising to be a better ruler and husband than his brother. I didn't love Leto, but I had nowhere else to go. I accepted his proposal. Leto was a hard king, ruling with an iron fist. The more I found out about his true self, the more I spoke up against him, and the less I wanted to give him an heir. This infuriated him, and in a rage he admitted to exposing Marcus to the plague in order to gain the crown and me, threatening that I would be next. I could only sit back as Phelan stood at his mercy. The clans hated him as much as I did, so when an assassin poisoned his goblet, I wasn't surprised. This time, however, I wasn't alone. In my estrangement from Leto, his youngest brother Caleb had grown into a strapping young puck who served in his brother's army. Only a couple years younger than me, Caleb could see where both of his brothers had failed as kings and husbands. When he was home, we'd take long walks through this very garden. When he was away, we wrote letters in code, sharing information, but also sharing our hearts. After Leto passed, Caleb returned to mourn his brother and propose to me. In marrying the third brother, however, there were no loud celebrations. Many thought I killed off the previous two myself and somehow enchanted Caleb, only to dispose of him too, so I could rule alone. The queen looks away, but I can see the tears welling in her eyes. I had nothing to do with Caleb's death. In fact, I begged him not to return to patrolling with his troop. But as much as he loved me, he missed the life of a soldier. And I think, after experiencing so much loss, he was afraid to fully let anyone in. Queen Gwendolen trails off. The day he left, something told me I would never see him again. And a month later, after I got the news he'd been slain in battle, I found out I was pregnant with Vale. Like many of Wit's stories, I'm caught up in this one until the very end. If she's telling the truth, the tales about her have been blown way out of proportion. Before me isn't the strong queen from the Great Hall, but a young pixie trying to figure out her place in the world. Not unlike myself. Your Majesty, I begin softly, finding new admiration for this royal. Why tell me this story? Why not just punish me and send me on my way? Queen Gwendolen gives me a small smile. We are not so different, you and I. We are both powerful, great leaders. And yet we want to be free. I swallow hard. It's scary how much she's right. Tonight, you demonstrated impressive cleverness and ambition. I know you don't want the throne any more than anyone wants you on it. So, I have a proposition for you. You mean a bribe? I draw back, my guard up again. I should have known this was coming.
More of a bargain. One where we both get what we truly desire. She smiles. Vale is the obvious choice for the crown, and I am confident she will excel in this competition. As Vale was meant to be the future ruler of Phelan, I have personally ensured she's been trained in every royal responsibility and ethos since she was a sprite. Except one. She looks to the stars. I'm sure you can see why I never taught her to fight. I never wanted her to have a reason to go to war like her father. But now, I worry for her success in the final Gwyllion challenge. I want you to train her well enough to defeat the others. Even you. I take a moment to process. She wants me to train her daughter? To help her beat me at the only thing I excel at. I try to imagine Vale going through the same training exercises I took my crew through, complaining and insulting me all the while. Me struggling to even be in the same room without wanting to knock her out. I scowl. And what good will that do me? I cross my arms, ready to turn her down. If you accept, she says slowly, I will have Vale make sure you're ready for all the other phases of the competition. Your survival will be as important to me as hers. If Vale succeeds in surpassing the other competitors in the Gwyllion trial of strength, including you, I'll ensure that Vale releases you from your responsibility to the Gwyllion throne and bestows full immunity for your past crimes. If all goes well, you'll have a clean slate, your freedom, and the ability to return to your ship and crew. I hesitate, mentally combing through every aspect of her deal. If I do this, not only will I gain my freedom, but I'll also still technically fulfill my vow to enter the competition, all without having to become Queen of Phelan or ruler of Greymarrow in the end. But what will I do after everything is over? My head falls, the sting of Wit's betrayal hitting me again. I'm not sure I'll be able to return to my ship. Quinn, my dear. The Queen lifts my chin to meet her eyes. I search her face for agitation, but there's only concern. I know you grew up with only a father to raise you, so let me give you some motherly advice. I find myself leaning forward, waiting to hear what she has to say. Is this what it's like to have a mother? Or even just a parent who cares? Everyone has their place in the machine. Each clan and fairy has their position in the cog of life. But you don't need anyone else to make it in this world. If your crew has rejected you, you'll find a way to rise above and start afresh. Warmth spreads through my chest as she speaks, and I'm suddenly unafraid of the future. I want to be the pixie she sees. Perhaps we are more alike than I thought. Perhaps, like me, she's just misunderstood. I'm about to speak when Gaius's face appears in my mind, and I hesitate. Gaius wouldn't want me to represent him in the Ethodine this way. But surely he couldn't fault me for getting what I want out of this as well. Maybe this is what I'm best at. Being a pirate, making crooked deals, surviving. But before I can start over, I need a bit more from the Queen. And right now, she has more to gain than I have to lose. I have a stipulation. I want my weapons returned to me now, plus enough riches to purchase a Sylph flying ship and hire a new crew when I've secured Vale's victory. Maybe that much could afford me some revenge. I stand a little taller. These are my terms. Take them, and we have a deal. I like your spunk, Captain. The Queen smirks as she considers me. Prove to me you can behave yourself this week, no more knocking out my guards and stealing their clothes, and I will consider returning your weapons. As for a new ship and crew, make sure my Vale wins, and you will have your reward. Chapter 7. This is ridiculous, Vale mutters under her breath. Both her red ponytail and knee-length dress with gold trim furiously swish behind her as I follow through the corridor.
Not a speck of garden dirt on her today. She finally looks like the princess I expected. Once in her chambers, Vale walks to the back of the room, approaching a pair of double doors near her bed. As she throws them open, I expect to see a walk-in closet arrayed with rows of frilly dresses. Instead, we stand in a tall room of floor-to-ceiling bookcases with a white-stained desk and 2 purple-cushioned chairs in the center. Her own private library. I shouldn't be surprised. Vale has been charged by her mother to help me study in secret so that no one will know she's helping me. Staring at the looming bookcases around us, I try not to feel intimidated. While this is a room wit would drool over, I know that there's no way I can memorize all this information in just a few days. Not even with Vale's help. I sit at the desk already piled high with books. Vale glares at me, no longer trying to hide her disdain with any amount of tact. You know, I could probably pass this trial without studying at all. Instead, I'm stuck here with you. She obviously likes the idea about as much as I do. You really think you're that smart, huh? I cross my arms. Vale shrugs. I'm first in my class every year. I've practically memorized every book in this room. She motions to the walls of bookcases with a raised brow. I whistle, feigning an overly impressed look. Though I really am. I don't see what the big deal with this trial is, I deflect, flipping through a few pages of a book before tossing it to the side. If I don't finish first in this one, it's not like answering a few trivial questions wrong is life or death. That's what they'd like you to think. Vale smirks. Her white feathered wings lift her into the air until she reaches the top shelves. Never forget, underestimating a sylph is to truly beg for death. She thumbs through a line of book spines, dusting off the jackets as she goes, and pulls one out before returning to the ground. She plops the book in front of me, and I read the title. How to Kill Without Getting Caught. We literally wrote the book on it. She smiles. In spite of myself, I grin. This is a book I could definitely be into. But as I reach for it, Vale pulls it back, wagging a finger and clicking her tongue. Wouldn't want you getting any new ideas on that subject. It's all the others we need to focus on. She places the book on a shelf behind her, then spins around with intensity. Let's start with something that should be easier for you, shall we? How many moons do we have, and what are their names? Well, I picture the sky at night, but Vale doesn't wait for my answer. In what year did the first Ethodine occur? I hesitate again, my brain spinning. How many grams of pixie dust can a kobold be exposed to before slipping into insanity, as exposed to any other fairy kind? Not wanting to miss another question, I throw out a guess. 4. From Vale's expression, I can tell I wasn't even close. She collapses into the chair across from me, flinging her hands up. Didn't you have any kind of schooling before throwing your life away to piracy? Wasn't really my thing. I huff, frustrated as well as bored out of my mind. Half our schooling was in the art of swordplay, weapon welding, and iron casting. You know, the important stuff. Vale sighs. This is going to be a lot harder than I thought. Good thing I came prepared. She pulls a vial out of her pocket and shakes it vigorously before placing it on the desk between us. What is it? I peer curiously at the slimy green substance swishing around in the bottle. It's called Knotting Potion, Vale says with a glint in her eye. It helps you retain massive amounts of information at a time. After drinking it, you have about an hour to read or listen to whatever you wish to remember. Normally, someone who takes it can retain what they've learned for only the following day. But this concentrated dose should allow you to keep the information in that sorry head of yours until the end of the week. Should? I ask, still eyeing the vial with suspicion. Why don't all the competitors use it? Because not everyone is as smart as I am. Concocting this stuff isn't easy, you know. You made this stuff? I lift it off the desk, observing it from all sides. I'm a master at many things, Vale says, lifting her chin with pride. Like any sylph, I love the study of the sun, the moon, and the stars. I have quite the knack for ancient languages as well. But potions are my specialty. There's nothing more enjoyable than spending a day in the sun, gathering rare herbs in the garden, and experimenting with them late into the night. You've really got to get out more. I uncap the bottle, take a quick whiff, and hold back a gag at the putrid scent. How do I know this isn't poison? Vale's smile widens. Only one way to find out. I weigh my odds. There's no question I'm not Vale's favorite person, but she'll also have to deal with her mother's wrath, never mind being banned from the Ethodine, if she kills me. Besides, Vale still needs me to train her for the trial of strength. At least, I hope that's how she sees it. Tired of debating my odds, I gulp the sticky liquid down as fast as I can. Choking on its acidic taste, I wait. I don't feel any different. Vale rolls her eyes, tosses a book in front of me titled A History of Sylph Culture, and opens it to the first page. Wait for it. Immediately, the words start whizzing by my eyes so fast it makes me dizzy. Even crazier, I'm retaining what I'm reading. All of it. I flip the page, then again, and again. My focus only breaks when Vale rips the book away and stares at me with a smile. Okay, what is a Sylph youngling's main subject of study? The orbiting sun, moons, and stars, and their effect on our world and weather patterns, I say without a second thought. Good. How many types of plants are grown in the royal gardens alone? Including edible vegetation? Yes. 10,745. Excellent. Vale beams. All sylph wings are most similar to that of birds. Which bird's feathers did the great King Zor's wings resemble most? A phoenix. Vale snaps the book closed, beaming with a triumphant smirk. And that's how it's done. This stuff is amazing. My brain is still buzzing with all the information, my pulse racing. You use it too? Please. Vale laughs, tapping her temple. This brain is a library of information all on its own. You don't mess with perfection. The real question is, are you okay with cheating your way through this one? Pirate. I point to myself. We both laugh. It might have actually been a pleasant moment if not for the footsteps we hear coming toward the door. Vale and I go still, watching the entrance. It could be the Queen coming to check on us, but if we're found by the wrong fairy, we're in deep weeds. The door creaks open, and I hold my breath as Hickory casually walks in. I freeze, but Vale exhales with a wave of her hand. Oh, it's just you. I'm busy at the moment. Go away now. Hickory lets out a light chuckle.
It's really hysterical how you think you can order me around like one of your servants.
Hickory holds out the book in his hands to her.
Just making a return.
It wasn't an order, Vale protests, snatching the book from him. Just a strong suggestion. It's Hickory's turn to roll his good eye, which then settles on me curiously. A bead of perspiration rolls down my face. I'm nervous about Vale and I getting caught, but I also feel warmer than usual. At first, I'm afraid my fire ability is going to spontaneously make an appearance, but this feels different. Perhaps perspiration is how the potion works its way out of my system. Either way, it's definitely making me look guilty. I've only just begun this charade, and I'm already done for. I look to Vale. Why isn't she freaking out too? Instead of asking why I'm here like any normal fairy might do, Hickory sniffs the air, following his nose until he's right in front of me. Completely disregarding my personal space, he leans in. Can I help you? I press up against the back of my chair.
I had a question,
he says, still inspecting me while addressing Vale.
But I can see you're busy. I'll come back later.
And with that, he leaves. The door clicks shut behind him. Very odd, that one. Vale confirms my exact thought, still seemingly unconcerned. I nod at the book Hickory returned to her. Are you helping all the competitors pass the trial? Don't you think that's a little counterintuitive? Vale laughs. What, Hickory? With his love of history, he might know more than I do, if that's possible. He borrowed this for pleasure reading, but just now he was probably also hoping for a pixie dust fix. What, are you his supplier or something? I joke. Up here in the clouds, I'm the only supplier. I nearly laugh out loud, but her expression is dead serious. Though I'm skeptical, being the Queen's daughter, I can see her easily gaining access to all the pixie dust she wants. Typical Sylph, taking advantage of the plenty they already have. I'm still worried about Hickory, though. Do you think he knows you're helping me? Perhaps. He probably smelled the potion. Not having full sight can really heighten all other senses, you know. Vale says casually as she inspects the condition of the book he'd returned. But he won't say anything. How can you be so sure? Sweat gathers at the nape of my neck. He's too dependent on the dust. It dulls the pain in his bad eye. Vale finishes with the book, placing it carefully back on the shelf. He knows if he spills any of my secrets, I'll cut him off. You really do have everyone wrapped around your little finger, I comment, a bit impressed. As she said, I shouldn't underestimate her. Still, I can't leave her feeling too sure of herself. Everyone but your mother, that is. Vale's demeanor goes from tolerating my presence to loathing me all over again in a matter of seconds. She comes at me in a stoic fury, her freckles gathering in a contorted expression. Bet you think you can do that, though, don't you? She leans over me. I heard all about your little stunt last night, how my mother showed you mercy, offering you this ridiculous deal. She may feel sorry for you, pirate, being motherless and all, but don't think that means you'll get into her good graces. Sure, she'll reward you, but she'll throw you away in the end. She only has room in her heart for one. Don't you forget that. She looks at the vial still on the desk and back to me as a smirk emerges through her anger. Well, at least for this week. I know you won't be able to forget it. I blink, taken aback by her venomous insults. But as she stomps out of the room, I realize the one who is really hurt is Vale. I spend the rest of the hour feverishly reading as many books as I can before the potion evaporates out of my system. Vale doesn't return. Finally, some peace and quiet. But even with my temporary speed-reading abilities, I don't get through even half the books in her library. With the hour almost up, my heart rate slowly returns to normal. I'll need a nice long bath after all this sweating the potion has caused. Just one more book, I tell myself, grabbing the next one on the pile. The edges of the cover are bent, coated in a layer of dust, much older than any of the other books I've come across. I start to wipe away the dust, but pause, my fingers brushing over the well-worn leather. There, in the middle of the cover, sits a singular symbol, engraved in gold. 3 circles, each smaller than the last, fit inside each other. A decorative flower is overlaid on top of them. Its 10 delicate petals stretch out to the perimeter of the outermost circle. An uncanny notion washes over me. I've seen the image somewhere before. I rack my memory, but I can't place it. Peering closer, I graze my fingers over the gold embellishment. The moment I touch it, a bright light fills the room. A surge of energy shoots through my fingers, spreading through my body like a lightning bolt. The book drops with a thud, and I squeeze my eyes shut, shaking my head until the surge of energy dissipates. What in Phelan was that? I spot the book on the desk. The blinding light is gone, but no way am I touching that thing again. Either this text is cursed or the potion is still messing with me. A distant bell chimes the hour. Whatever that was, it's definitely time for a break. The initial effectiveness of the potion might have worn off, but I still have a few more days to prepare the old-fashioned way. If I really want to survive the trial of knowledge, I need to be ready. Picking up as many books as I can carry, I head back to my chambers. I'm more than done with this stuffy room and the strange happenings inside its walls. In my hurry, I knock into something in the hallway, books flying everywhere. Perfect. I'm about to curse when I notice Hickory sprawled out on the floor, covered in my books and a collection of his paintbrushes and sketches. Maybe it's because his misty blind eye is staring at me, or that he still reminds me of my brother. But somehow I find myself apologizing. I'm so sorry. I nearly trip over the books while trying to help him up.
I'm pretty sure I bumped into you.
Hickory laughs, waving me off kindly while picking up his art supplies and a couple of my books.
A little light reading?
Just a bit, I sigh. Gotta get ready for this first trial somehow, though I hear you're more than prepared. Perhaps, he says, struggling to hold back a smile at the compliment.
But it's what's not in these books that's the real interesting stuff.
He holds out one of them to me. I tilt my head before taking it. What do you mean?
Well, for instance...
He pauses and looks around at the empty hallway, lowering his voice.
The history books claim that Sylphs banished the Pneuma from our world entirely, but some fairies believe the Pneuma still hold some power over our world, that they still cause mischief and disaster, growing stronger in the shadows until they will one day return. Some even believe the Pneuma cursed our land with the Knoll's plague as their parting gift.
Ah, here are the conspiracy theories Vale was talking about. Interesting. That is, if the Pneuma even existed at all, I challenge. Hickory's brows lift.
You don't believe? Please.
The events happened so long ago, the story of the Pneuma and the Sylph King could have easily been inflated over time. I've seen it happen firsthand with legends created about my own pirate persona. I wouldn't be surprised if it's just a way for the Sylphs to justify their place in power. Though, recalling Hickory's mural depictions of the terrifying Pneuma salivating for fairy blood, I can't help but shudder.
Sounds like you have some conspiracy theories of your own, then?
Hickory eyes me with a smirk. I shrug. Maybe I do. Hickory picks another book off the floor, and his eyes go wide.
Where did this one come from?
He holds it out to me, and I nearly jump back. It's the book with the strange symbol. I put out my hands as if it might leap forward and attack me. I have no idea. I didn't mean to take that one. Thankfully, it doesn't seem to be doing anything strange while in Hickory's hands. What is it?
Oh, just another ancient tome, but one I have yet to read myself.
Hickory holds the book close to his chest, as if it's more precious than possessed.
Mind if I take it off your hands?
Please, I say, relieved. Just make sure Princess Pouty Pants gets it back.
Sure thing.
Hickory laughs again as I pick up more books.
And don't worry,
he says in a softer tone.
Whatever you and Vale were doing earlier stays between you and Vale.
I slowly pick up the last book, glancing around the empty corridor before I meet his eyes.
Just like whatever transpires between Vale and me stays between Vale and me.
He pulls out his pipe, and I realize he's referencing their pixie dust dealings. You don't want to rat me out? I ask. One less competitor to worry about?
You could do the same to me, I suppose.
Hickory counters, striking a match on his belt and lighting the pipe.
But I'm fairly sure I don't have a chance at winning. Of course, I'd never hear the end of it from my parents if I didn't at least try. Being able to travel and paint all of Phelan as its king does sound pretty amazing. At least I'd never have to go back to the dark abyss of the tunnels.
He shivers, clutching the tome tighter. Wait, you're a kobold who's afraid of the dark? I startle at the thought.
I know, it's ridiculous. But with only one working eye, I don't see as well as other kobolds do. Especially in the dark.
Hickory shakes his head in good-humored embarrassment. But glancing at some of his murals on the walls nearby, his face grows more serious.
There have been times my good eye fails to glow in the dark at all. Each time I fear I've finally lost my sight completely, never able to see or paint anything ever again.
My heart breaks for him. I hope you don't mind me asking, but how did you lose your vision in the first place?
I was diagnosed with a disease a few years ago,
he explains. The Knolls? I chance a guess.
Our medics thought it might be that at first, but since the disease stayed centralized to my eyes, that theory was dismissed. They were able to slow the effects dramatically, but I eventually lost this eye completely.
He points to the hazy one that barely shifts.
My parents wanted our medics to gouge it out and replace it with a mechanical eye, but it was a risky procedure. I could have lost all sight if things went wrong, so I refused. Besides, I think this eye actually gives me an edgy, vagrant kind of look.
He flicks back his white locks, revealing more of his misty eye with a smirk. I can't help but smile back. This puck has spunk, and I appreciate his candor more than he knows.
By the way, I wouldn't take what Vale said yesterday too personally. About Gaius, I mean.
My smile fades as I replay her accusations in my mind.
I think Gaius' passing reminded us all how vulnerable we are. None of us, no matter our station, are immune to death. I think your presence may be a reminder for Vale that's too close for comfort.
I wonder at his wisdom. His reasoning doesn't make Vale's words sting any less, but it does help me see things in a different light.
Plus, I think she sees you as a real threat. You're the only wild card she hasn't quite figured out yet.
His smile returns.
Vale is afraid of the dark too, in a way. She hates being blind to something she feels like she should understand. I'm afraid she'll probably keep pushing your buttons until she knows what makes you tick.
Great, I say sarcastically. There's some satisfaction in knowing that Vale might actually see me as a threat, but with my current deal with the Queen, it doesn't matter. If Hickory's analysis of how Vale functions is accurate, this is going to be a very long few weeks. A door down the hall creaks open. Alice emerges from her room, dressed in all black as usual, her gloved hands securing the satchel at her side. She stares at us. Every time she gives me that cold, blank look, I feel as though she can see right into my very soul. It's starting to give me the creeps. Hickory gives her a short wave. He's obviously the friendliest of all of us. But she breaks her stare and continues in the opposite direction.
Don't mind Alice,
Hickory shrugs.
She tends to prefer the company of creatures over her own kind. Nothing personal, of course.
I stare after her in her gloved hands. Have you ever seen her, kill someone? Hickory snorts.
Alice? I think you've been listening to too many stories. Folk are rarely what they appear to be, Captain. You of all faith should know that.
I agree, but his statement isn't exactly a denial either.
I'd stop hanging out with Vale, though, if I were you,
he adds, turning to leave.
Aaron, too, if you know what's good for you.
Chapter 8. As much as I'd love to heed Hickory's warnings and never see Vale again, there's no way that's possible. Not when I'm contractually obligated to train her every blasted day. Once we're in the other provinces, it will be a lot harder to be discreet, and Vale has a lot to learn about swordplay in 5 short weeks. So, to our dismay, the Queen has given us access to a private training room and insists that I give Vale as much instruction as possible while we're still in Eldor. Lucky me. At least during these sessions, Vale is in my wheelhouse of expertise and under my instruction. Our weapons might be made of wood to start, but knocking her around with them is still fairly entertaining.
Ouch!
Vale cries as I strike at her rib.
You did that on purpose!
After the last few sessions, you'd think you'd have learned not to leave that spot vulnerable anymore. I circle her, poking at her legs. And your stance is still all wrong. Didn't you practice anything I showed you yesterday? Vale glares.
I was too busy reading through all the Royal Library's books on swordplay. Boring as ever, but I know all the weapons and fighting terms now. I bet I know even more than you.
A lot of good that's doing. While I'm giving her a hard time, I'm honestly surprised by some of her natural instincts. Like her gleaming red hair, she probably inherited some genetic skill from her late father. But I'm not going to risk giving her a bigger head than she already has. It's time to take this princess down a peg and show her what true strength really is. And how hard she'll have to work for it. You know head knowledge is much different from actually applying it in real life, right? I say. Vale rubs her side.
You still don't have to hit so hard.
I sigh. Look, if you want everyone to believe you can beat me in the final trial, you have to at least make it look convincing. You've got to toughen up, princess. If I'm not hard on you, you'll never learn. As my father's exact words come out of my mouth, I wince. The last time I remember him saying it, I'd gotten cocky during a dragon raiding drill and led my troop to failure. Fate made me duel him right then and there, in front of everyone. That was when I got most of my scars. I touch my arms, and my wings shudder behind me at the memory. I couldn't fly for a week. Still, I can't deny that his methods produce results. Though I've never been quite as harsh, I've seen their effectiveness with my own crew. And if I ever want to get through this competition and return to my life of piracy, I have no other choice but to use them on Vale as well.
What's wrong with you?
Vale's voice snaps me back to attention. I must have spaced out. Besides the fact that I'm stuck here with you? I run a hand through my sweaty curls as I think of the litany of things that are wrong. There's the nightmare of Gaius that's still haunting me. It's been coming back most nights, keeping me tossing and turning. Frankly, I'm exhausted. But I don't tell Vale that. There's also the annoying fact that I can feel a faint hum of the nodding potion's magic constantly buzzing through my body. I don't think your stupid elixir is agreeing with me, I finally say. I keep feeling this tingling sensation.
That just means it's still working, helping you hold on to all the information you learned. When you stop feeling that sensation, that's when you should start worrying.
It's true. I can still recall every single piece of information I learned that day in Vale's library. Honestly, it's kind of creeping me out. I just hope it will all be worth it.
Well, I think I've had quite enough of you for today anyway.
Vale waves her hand dismissively.
You may go.
With pleasure, I say under my breath. I don't like obeying her orders, but at this point, I want nothing more than to get out of here.
And if you know what's good for you, she calls after me, you'll grab that pile of books on the way out. You still have to survive the first trial, after all.
I grumble as I pick up the towering stack of books and head to my room. I feel a headache coming on just thinking of another study session. All I've done since arriving in Eldor is stare at pages and pages of text until my brain hurts. Listening to Vale's whining isn't helping either. I yearn for a distraction, some fun. Unconsciously, Aaron's smile pops into my head. Stop that. I shake off the image. He's caught up with me a few more times while at meals or studying in the main library, but ever since Hickory gave me that warning, I've tried to keep my distance. I don't know why Hickory said what he said. Maybe he knows about Aaron's silver tongue, too? In any case, getting too close to Aaron, or any of them for that matter, will only lead to trouble. It's better to keep to myself. But Trouble is my middle name, and I know it the moment I turn the next corner and spot Alice walking down the hall. I quiet my steps, watching her carefully until all I can hear bouncing off the walls is the sound of her heavy boots. And something else. A faint but distinct sound of metals clinking together. I search for the source, but it leads back to Alice. The sound matches the rhythm of her steps, muffled by the long black cloak she wears. Could she be hiding weapons? I quicken my pace. Alice seems like the sort who could sneak weapons onto the premises. We haven't exactly gotten off on the right foot, but maybe I can convince her to share. Hey, Alice, I call, trying not to drop the pile of books. Wait up! But if anything, Alice quickens her pace. She turns the next corner, out of sight. Wait a minute! I walk faster, ready to throw the books to the ground and leave them in my wake. Come on, I know you're mute, but you're not deaf! Turning the same corner, I come face to face with a very unhappy Alice. Arms crossed, she stands in front of an arched opening leading out to the gardens. As the sun shines through, it highlights her small but strong frame and her stern brown eyes. She obviously didn't like my last comment, but at least I've gotten her attention. Ah, off to take a stroll through the gardens? I ask, adjusting the books in my arms. She taps her foot impatiently and lifts a brow. Anyone ever tell you that you're a fast walker? I stall. How can I get her to show me what she's hiding under that cloak? But Alice isn't in the mood for chit-chat. She rolls her eyes and walks outside, disappearing into the foliage. Wait! I huff and follow. Once through the archway, I freeze. Up ahead, Alice approaches a green dragon flying overhead, the same one she arrived on earlier in the week. Toma. I slide behind a tree, waiting to see what she'll do. With a flick of her wrist, the dragon halts in midair, only flapping his wings to stay suspended. He watches her intently for her next command. Alice raises her hands in a fluid motion, and the dragon obeys, flipping through the air. It's like Alice has a secret language that only she and the dragon know, a dance only the two of them share. It's mesmerizing. When she brings her hands down, he darts toward her and lands with a thud, the ground trembling. Unlike the menacing dragons in the mountains, one could easily miss Toma in this setting. His emerald green scales blend into the plants around him. The hair under his chin and chest billows out like a regal mane, while the rest hangs off his body like drooping vines. He practically disappears into the foliage until he shifts to growl and snap at the birds flying overhead. Though he sits curled up like a bobcat, playfully wagging his tail at Alice's approach, I'm still unable to move. Dragon raids on Grey Marrow replay in my mind, the smell of smoldering stone returning. Is getting hold of a weapon really this important? After taking a deep breath, I decide it's now or never. Do or die. I gulp down my nerves, leaving the books on a nearby bench. Hey, Alice, I say as casually as I can, my focus more on the dragon as I approach. I stand near his tail. It's safer than going near his smoke-breathing head. At the sound of my voice, though, Toma whips his head toward me, watching my every move. Got a question for you, one warrior to another. I continue to Alice, but she passes right by me, circling around the dragon, her eyes roaming over his body. She's inspecting him, looking for something. I decide to take her silence as permission to keep talking. You see, I'm in need of a weapon or two, and I'm willing to do whatever's necessary to acquire, well, anything, really. Surprisingly, Alice reaches into her satchel, and my heart leaps with hope. But instead of a weapon, she pulls out a half-eaten lamb leg that I recognize from the afternoon lunch spread. Toma licks it into his mouth, bones and all. I grimace as she wipes the dragon saliva onto her cloak. I press on, taking a tentative step forward. Toma's attention shifts back to me as he licks his lips, daring me to come closer. I hold my breath, chancing another step. This time, he bares his sharp teeth, launching toward me so fast I barely have time to react. Alice darts in between us. She glares at him, using her hands to sign another order. The dragon snorts out smoke but settles back down, eyeing me. I breathe out, but I can't stop now. One last try. I wouldn't need much, preferably a weapon that is small and easily concealable. I lower my voice to a whisper. Maybe we can make a deal for, say, whatever you're hiding under your cloak? Alice's eyes finally snap to mine and narrow, the black tattoos that frame her brown face creasing with the movement. She slowly moves her hand beneath her cloak, and I draw back, realizing she could just as easily use whatever it is against me. But what emerges from her belt isn't any weapon I've ever seen. More like a ridged blade connected to a pair of large metal shears, or pliers, or... Alice huffs and turns toward the dragon. Making sure to give him another piece of lamb from her satchel first, she kneels and uses the device to begin clipping and sharpening his claws. My shoulders slump. Ah, I see. I pinch the bridge of my nose. Stupid. I guess that means no weapons today. Back to hitting the books for me. But as I move to leave, I notice two figures on the other side of the garden. One has midnight blue hair, his back to me. The other faces him, and I recognize her fiery red waves. Aaron and Vale. I'm too far to hear what they're saying, but Vale doesn't look happy. Her eyes shift from Aaron and find me. At first, her look grows even more agitated, as if I've purposely been spying on them. But soon, a mischievous smirk tugs at her lips. Aaron moves to follow her gaze, but Vale grabs his hand. Batting her lashes, she lures him away into the shadows, shooting me one more poignant grin before disappearing out of sight. I step forward, wondering what they're up to, but then stop. I push away the thought and snort. I don't care. The rasp of Alice's filing stops, and I glance her way. She and Toma stare at me in curiosity. What? I ask, annoyed at the whole situation. Alice and Toma look at each other, then back to me. Alice shrugs. As she resumes tending to her dragon, I pick up my books in defeat, but not before taking one last glance at Alice's back. I swear her shoulders are bobbing up and down with silent laughter. Chapter 9. On the morning of the first trial, I'm dragged out of bed before I can even open my eyes. What the? I wake out of my stupor and throw a punch toward the first blurred face I see. A hand with rough, calloused skin grips my wrist firmly before I can make contact. This is no Sylph. My eyes focus. I'm surrounded by 5 Gwyllian servants who are already pulling my night shift dress over my head and yanking brushes through my unruly hair. What are you doing? I try to pull away from them, but Gwyllian servants are not demure or frightened of me like the Sylph servants have been. Pleasant morning to you as well, my lady. The large one with my hand still clutched in her fist practically growls. Lord Faden sent us to make sure you represent Greymarrow well in the trial today. Of course. I sigh and eventually concede, letting them drag my exhausted body into the washroom and scrub me down, knotting my curls into a tight braid. When they're done, I turn to the mirror. With little to no makeup used in Gwyllian culture, my face looks plain, cold. If that isn't enough, the muted fabrics I wear wash out my already earthy complexion, threatening to kill my soul. My transformation is complete. I glower at the mirror, the Gwyllian part of me evident again. Exiting my room, I don't bother to hide my misery, but no one seems to notice, let alone care. The usual peaceful palace is bustling with servants rushing past me, preparing for the day's events. Evading wings and the items they carry, I find solace in a quiet alcove with windows that stretch from floor to ceiling, letting in cascading beams of light. There, I find Vale gathered with Aaron, Hickory, and Alice as they stare out over the city. I haven't spoken to any of them except Vale since my incident with Alice. I've spent most of my time studying alone in my room while trying to avoid more awkward encounters. Though I sense their eyes on me, I keep my focus on the window, where we survey the city and the hordes of fairies that fill the usually clear streets. All the different clans are arriving from the Vineway, pouring into the city in droves. Quite a sight, huh? Aaron asks. It's a rare sight for sure, I nod. Memories of the clans gathering at Gaius's funeral rush back as if it was yesterday and a lifetime ago all at the same time. I try to ignore the twinge in my heart. I can't imagine this many non-Sylphs have ever been welcomed here. It's the first time in decades, actually. Vale avoids my gaze, but that doesn't stop her insatiable desire to correct my error. It's also meant to grab Aaron's attention away from me, no doubt. It's only for today, so the rest of Phelan can view the trial. Mother says it's a sign of goodwill that will further promote peace and cooperation between the clans. The others have agreed to do the same for their trials, but I don't know that it's the best idea. Why's that? Hickory squints his good eye at Vale. Isn't that what this whole competition is supposed to be for? Finding peace? His voice is laced with sarcasm. Vale glares at him before returning to the window. All
I'm saying is that we've kept our clans separated and our borders guarded for so long. Letting everyone in all at once, it just makes me nervous. Everyone? My eyes dart through the crowd afresh, wondering if any of the pirates made it through. So they're just letting anyone in? Don't be silly. There's still a screening process before entry. You're definitely the only vagrant permitted, that's for sure. I smirk. Good thing I had my own personal invitation then. Vale looks at me, and for the first time, a hint of a smile appears. Yeah, well, let's see if you lost the day. Flying into the outdoor stadium is a shock to the senses. Today, the Cognoseum is packed to the brim as trumpets blare. The crowd's chattering turns to roaring cheers as my competitors and I descend into the deafening noise. Though nearly every seat is filled, the separation of clans is stark. Each clan keeps to their own section, maintaining a healthy distance from the others as they wave clan flags and display their wings proudly. Still, the Sylphs were sure to select an arena that reminds us whose territory we're in. Sylph statues with large feathered wings loom from the 5 corners of the structure, peering at us with their stone-cold eyes. Sweat beads on my forehead, but at least I can blame it on the midday sun beating down on us. Of course they chose a day without a cloud in the sky. In the rafters, the clan lords and ladies gather in their own separate booth. It doesn't take me long to pick out my father with his large frame and sour expression. He hates being outside the safety of his mountains, and he's probably nervous I'm going to screw this up. Badly. The crowd seems to agree. As we land, the audience grows quiet. All eyes on me. In any other situation, I would have welcomed the attention. Maybe given the crowd a wave and an obnoxious smile. But today, everyone in the stadium not only sees the elusive face of Captain Shade for the first time, but also the Gwyllian princess who abandoned her clan to become a vagrant. I can't worry about that now. Striding forward, I focus all my attention on what lays ahead. As instructed, the 5 of us step onto our designated stone platforms. They are strangely long and narrow, running parallel to each other. The Queen stands in front of us as a team of Sylphs haul over a bullhorn twice their size on squeaky wheels. The clans grow quiet as the Queen approaches the mouth of the horn. "Welcome to the first trial of the Ethodine," the Queen announces, her voice filling the stadium. "Today marks the end of conflict and the beginning of peace, as we take one step closer to crowning the next ruler of Phelan." The ground shakes. Reflexively, I release my wings and hover above the shuddering platform. What's happening? I look at the others, but they just stare wide-eyed at the floor. The ground around our individual platforms splits open, and walls of multicolored glass rise from the ground. In seconds, each of us has 4 glass walls surrounding our platforms, closing us in. My heartbeat pulses in my throat. But it's the sharp glass spikes covering the 2 far walls that catch my attention. As they reach maximum height, Sylph servants fly overhead, carrying thick glass sheets. They secure them to the top of each of our enclosures, sealing us in. I inhale sharply. Trapped again. The Queen continues. "For our part, we Sylphs bring forth our trial of knowledge. In a moment, the walls of each champion's enclosure will begin closing in toward them as they are asked a series of questions. A wrong or delayed answer will cause the walls to pick up speed, while a correct answer will slow them down." The Sylph guards wheel out an hourglass as tall as the Queen. "If a champion answers enough questions correctly before the timer is up, the floor beneath them will open and whisk them to safety. The order in which they finish will determine their ranking for this round." Fresh sweat breaks out on my forehead. There's no mention of those that don't answer the satisfactory number of questions, a fact the crowd has also noticed. Murmurs grow louder as the clan leaders stand up, shouting their outrage. My father even dares to take a step forward,
as if ready to fly down to stop the whole thing. But Sylph guards swiftly block them in, reminding them whose territory they're in and whose game they're playing. I fly toward the ceiling of my prison, banging my body and fists against the glass. If I only had my daggers, I could probably crack the structure, but the walls are too thick to break by myself. I look at the others, my shock and fear reflected in their faces. All but Vale, that is. The Queen nods to her, and Vale rolls her shoulders, ready for the first question. Slowly, the other heirs follow suit, their faces hardening, readying themselves for the trial they've unknowingly been preparing for their whole lives. I force myself to keep it together. The tingling in my body reminds me that Vale's potion is still at work. I'm going to be fine. I hope. The Queen lifts her hands. Let the first trial begin! The hourglass is flipped, and the spiked walls begin closing in.
First question.
A voice echoes within my enclosure. I spin around to face my questioner, but no one's there. What kind of magic is this? I don't have time to find out as the spikes inch closer.
Moon rain glows with a unique element. It nourishes Phelan's grounds, sustaining the land and all its resources. What's the resource we'll run out of first if the moon rain doesn't return?
My heart races, but thankfully the potion humming through my system jolts my brain, pulling forth the information. Pixie dust! I yell. I don't want there to be any reason the questioner doesn't hear my answer and speeds up the walls. They slow, and I breathe in relief. But they're still coming, the sun glinting off their sharp spikes. I turn to the hourglass. The sand is speeding its way down. I have a long way to go, and not a lot of time to work with. The voice moves on.
List 5 major uses of pixie dust and 5 major dangers.
My brain jolts again as the words come to me. Slower this time. Medicines, incantations, fuel, euphoria, and floating. The spiked wall picks up speed with each moment I hesitate. I wipe sweat from my brow, racking my brain for the rest. Dangers come with overexposure or mixing certain herbs which can cause susceptibility to sickness, depression, loss of memory, lunacy, and death. The walls decelerate again. I pant, glancing at the other competitors' boxes. I can't hear their questions, though their hurried mouths move to answer, and Alice's hands fly around in a series of signs. Hickory and Vale's walls are moving even slower than mine, their natural knowledge even faster than my potion-enhanced brain. But Aaron and Alice are not as lucky. The spikes are closing in. Finding myself hoping we all survive, I wrench my attention away from them as the questions seem to go on for eternity. Thankfully, most are either ones I already know or topics I studied while under the nodding potion's influence.
How many Sylphs have ruled since the Numa's banishment, including the 3 brothers who were married to Queen Gwendolen?
13.
Younglings reach mature faehood when their wings are fully developed. Which clan reaches this stage faster than others?
Gwillians.
Dryads are sometimes born with physical characteristics and advantages of animals because of their deep connection with them. What were the characteristics that Dryad ruler Lady Bayou was born with?
Yellow eyes and whiskers.
Many think infant fairies were originally called sprouts because they sprout from their mothers. But what is the true origin of their name?
The first fairies are believed to have literally sprouted from the sacred vine. Considering my terrible education, the potion's effects are nothing less than miraculous. But the questions keep coming. Maybe it's stress or fatigue, but the tingling through my body eases. Suddenly, the whole section of kobolds in the audience rises to their feet in applause. I glance at Hickory's containment box. His spikes haven't moved far, and he's nowhere to be found, assuring me he hasn't been impaled but is safely below us. I sigh with relief. Unsurprisingly, Vale has already escaped her box of terror as well, leaving me, Aaron, and Alice left in the race. The next question comes.
How many fairies died in the first wave of the Knowles Plague?
I wait for my brain to jolt the answer. Nothing happens. 100, I guess. Wrong. The walls speed up. I must not have studied that one, I try to reassure myself.
Which herbs are mixed together to create the Dryad's most common healing balm?
Nothing again. Absolutely nothing. Well, it's no use. I have no idea. The tingling of the nodding potion is gone. Next question?
Who was the first kobold to experiment with pixie dust as a fuel source?
Nothing.
Nymph's skin turns blue when wet. What are the main benefits of this?
The spikes continue picking up speed. I can barely breathe as sweat coats my back. I look frantically at my father, the Queen, anyone. Aaron and Alice's containment boxes are now empty too. They're safe. I'm the only one left. No one can help me now. With the spikes only a few feet away, I fly to the ceiling once more and slam into the glass with the full force of my body. It doesn't budge. My skin burns with panic. I desperately consider letting my fire loose on the glass to melt it, but the enclosure is only growing smaller. Even if I used my ability, I'd only incinerate myself. What else? I dart to the floor, banging my fist against the metal door, begging those below to let me in. No, Vale, if I get out of this, I'm going to kill you! The questioner speaks again in his monotone, unsympathetic voice.
The mystic Gwyllians claim to be descendants of dragons because of their wings and fire-wielding ability. Where did they claim their fire released from? Their eyes, their mouths, or their hands?
I look at my fists. Though the answer can save me, I hate that I don't need to read about this one in some book. Hoping this is the last question, I speak the truth I know all too well. Their hands. The floor opens up, and I fall into darkness. Chapter 10. Safely under the arena, I finished in last place, but I'm still alive. That has to count for something. Gwyllian's servants rush to attend to me, but I push past them and fly through the doors, desperate for air. Flying up a stairway and into a hall, I find myself back in the palace. I dart toward my room.
You didn't do half bad in there for a cheating pirate.
I look back. It's Moonface. Just the fairy I did not want to see. If you're accusing me of something, Skyboy, you might as well say it. I continue on my way, barreling through the halls. Almost getting impaled on a wall of glass daggers is enough for one day. Thank you.
You think you can do anything you want, don't you?
His voice intensifies as he follows.
That you can just waltz in here and cheat your way to the crown?
I spin on my heels. Why don't you just say what's on your mind? He advances, pushing my shoulder.
A little birdie told me you stole some herbs that helped you retain all the information you just spouted in there.
So, he's not as stupid as he looks. Still, he dared to shove me. I reach for a weapon at my side, but of course, they're still in the Queen's armory, thanks to the idiot in front of me. If you value that hand, you will not touch me again. My comment only encourages him.
You mean, like this?
He pushes me harder this time, cornering me against a wall.
I warned you to watch your back.
Maybe you should watch your front. I move to knee him. He shifts just enough that I make contact with his gut instead. Blast. I was aiming somewhere else. He hisses with pain, but the impact isn't enough. With one quick motion, his hand wraps around my hair and pulls my head backward into the stone. I stifle a cry. I'm about to go for his eyes next when I hear a blade released from its sheath. Aaron is behind Moonface, pointing a sword right at his head. Moonface moves for his own sword at his belt, but it isn't there. Aaron took it right out from under his nose.
Unless you'd like me to dull the point of your ear, sir,
Aaron warns,
I would step away from the lady.
Moonface releases my hair and backs away, but his stupid smirk remains.
Just fooling around. No harm done.
You better be glad about that. Aaron doesn't lower the blade until Moonface walks around the corner and out of sight. Sliding the sword into his own belt, Aaron looks pretty pleased with himself, but I brush past him.
Where are you going now?
He calls after me. Far away from here, I call back, heat in my face, not slowing down. For Phelan's sake, I must have looked like such an idiot.
You've got to be kidding.
Aaron follows close behind.
I just saved your life. Again.
I shake my head. He still doesn't get it. A Gwyllian who needs saving is weak and inferior, indebted to their savior. It's the greatest shame, and there's no way I'm going to feel indebted to him. Besides, he might have fended off Moonface for now, but Aaron showing my inability to defend myself puts an even bigger target on my back. I don't need you saving me at every turn. Gwyllians don't need help. I had everything under control.
Are you serious?
His own frustration grows.
You didn't even have a weapon to defend yourself.
Reaching the door to my room, I spin around so fast Aaron nearly crashes into me. And whose fault is that? I bark. I don't know whether I'm more embarrassed or angry at my failure to protect myself. I curse. If only Aaron had gotten my weapons back when he had the chance in Dunestone Harbor. Perhaps I could have snuck them into Eldor with me.
Well, if you weren't in such a hurry to run away from me, you would have noticed I brought you something.
Aaron huffs, reaching under his cloak to reveal not one, but both my daggers. Where did you? I gape. They were missing from the armory the other night, but here they are right in front of me. He must have stolen them from the armory even before I tried to retrieve them. How long have you had them?
Does it matter?
He lifts a brow, allowing his smile to return. Unclenching my fists, I go to accept them, but stop. What's the catch? I mean, thank you, but I'm taken aback. Happy to see my daggers, and yet so confused. What's his angle? He has to have one. Everyone does. Why do you keep helping me? I'm your competition, remember?
No catch.
He sighs, pushing the daggers into my hands.
By all accounts, I shouldn't even give you one of these. But when you told me how important they are to you.
He grows quiet as I remember our chat in the Royal Library.
And seeing how you handled yourself in the competition today? Well, maybe I've judged you too quickly. I thought you deserved to have them back.
Aaron's eyes focus on me, soft with sincerity. It's as if I'm seeing them for the first time, noticing how blue and clear they are, like the ocean. Perhaps if I lean in a bit closer, I can dive right into their cool waters. He might be a privileged nymph prince, but he keeps surprising me. Much like being at sea, my feet are steady and firm one moment, and then a surprising wave hits, threatening to whisk me off my feet. I've been staring too long. Aaron speaks up with a slight chuckle in his voice.
Plus, you're right. I can't keep saving you. It's bad for my image. Might make other fays suspicious that something else is going on.
He winks playfully, but his smile is genuine, his stare not straying from my face. Warmth builds inside me again, the same kind I felt on his ship. It starts deep in my gut and rushes upward as if I'm going to throw up right then and there. Heat. The warmth changes to panic. I clutch the daggers. Thanks. I dart into my room, leaving him in the hallway. I lean back hard against the door, sliding to the ground. What's wrong with me? And why did Aaron go through the trouble of returning my daggers? If he thinks using kindness will give him an advantage over me, he's sadly mistaken. I'm not going to let him or anyone else find any weak spots to exploit. I swallow hard. The metal of the dagger's handles glows red from the heat in my hands. I drop them to the floor and curse as the red handprints fade. But it isn't just my hands that are hot. Slowly, I bring the back of my hand to my face, finding my cheeks are also warm to the touch. Chapter 11. The next morning, it isn't a nightmare or Gwyllian servants that wake me, but a racket outside my room. I roll out from under the warm covers and stagger to the door to find the palace bustling yet again. Fae servants from every clan fly back and forth, carrying an assortment of garment cases and baskets of food. One Sylph nearly hits me over the head as he whizzes through the air with a large trunk. Ducking just in time, I snag the nearest servant I can find. What in the blazes is going on? Can't a pixie get her beauty sleep?
Sorry, miss,
stammers the kobold, nearly dropping the stack of books she's carrying.
It's traveling day.
She stares up at me, recognition and panic igniting in her eyes. With my angry face and mane of messy curls, I must be quite the sight. Reluctantly, I soften my tone. Traveling day?
Yes, miss,
she answers, still wide-eyed.
You and the others set off to Isinglass for the next stage of the Ethodine today?
The horrific details of the trial return in a blur. Trapped in the quickly enclosing box, glistening glass spikes reaching out to impale me. I shudder. They don't waste any time. Don't we deserve a break? As I rub the memory and sleep from my eyes, an old dusty book sitting on top of the stack in her arms catches my eye. It's the tome with the strange symbol, the one that glowed at my touch. I step backward. Is Hickory returning these books to the princess?
Actually,
she says, more confused than scared this time.
Sir Hickory has asked that these be stored with his belongings for the trip ahead.
I smirk. Hickory is slyer than I thought. He doesn't intend to return the book to Vale, after all. What could be in that old text that's so fascinating? I'm about to ask the servant another question when a familiar laugh echoes down the hall. Amid the bustle, there's Aaron. My stomach flips. Thankfully, he's distracted by his conversation with a nymph maid, but they're headed toward my end of the hallway. Without another word, I scurry inside my room, slamming the door shut. I shake my head. What is happening to me? Even without using his silver tongue, he keeps messing with my head. Whatever Aaron's effect is on me, I need to keep myself in check and stay focused on my mission. But it'll be a lot harder to do so, knowing where we're headed next. Isinglass, the province of the nymphs. Though I'm not looking forward to being in Aaron's domain, going there does mean we'll return to the sea. That thought spurs me to start packing right away. Pulling out my trunk, I know the first thing I'll put inside. My daggers. I stashed the blades between the mattress and box spring last night. I move to hide them in the trunk before anyone can come knocking, but I pause, my fingers lingering over the weapons. My old friends. It's been so long since I used them for their intended purposes. I slice them through the air, an extension of my body once again. I fit them together into the single blade they were initially made to be, and a sense of wholeness rushes over me. The connection to my skill, my twin, and even our mother returns. Aaron did this for you. The thought comes before I can swat it away. I sigh. Just for a moment, I allow myself to recall Aaron's soft ocean eyes, his fingers briefly grazing mine as he gave back my daggers. Then, without warning, the scene in my mind violently shifts. Aaron's gentle eyes morph into Gaius's terrified gaze from my nightmares. Instead of Aaron, Gaius hands me the daggers in the chaos, screaming my name. My stomach swarms with confusion and terror. Trying to soothe myself, I run my thumb over the dagger's handle. My finger traces the pattern of engraved icons and swirls, one after the other, until one of the symbols catches my eye. My racing heart halts as the tome from Vale's library snaps into my memory. It can't be. The once strange symbol that was on the book doesn't seem so foreign anymore. There, embedded in the dagger's intricate designs, is a circle within a circle within a circle, and the unique flower with 10 petals. The same symbol that decorates the tome's cover. They're identical. What connection could my mother's daggers have with some ancient book collecting dust in the Sylph princess's library? Gaius's face from the nightmare flashes across my vision again. The sound of him calling my name rings in my head. Quinn! A knock sounds. I shove the daggers behind my back just as a tall Gwyllian servant bursts through the door.
Good, you're up,
he says gruffly, the words ruffling his overgrown beard.
You'd best get dressed and finish packing, Lady Quintessa. You don't have much time.
He shuts the door, and I don't waste another second, burying my daggers under a mound of clothes. I just got my weapons back. I'm not going to let them get taken away again. After closing the case hard and locking it for good measure, I sit on top of it and sigh. I should be thinking about the upcoming trial, worrying about whatever madness the nymphs are going to throw at us. Thanks to my agreement with the Queen to help Vale secure the crown, surviving the remaining trials is my only path to freedom. But that freedom is still weeks away. Right now, my thoughts are focused on the symbol, the tome, and the daggers. There's got to be a connection. I think back to my nightmares. Has my subconscious been using Gaius to tell me something all along? I curse. I was too quick to let Hickory take the book before, and it was nearly in my grasp just a few minutes ago in the hallway. No matter how eerie it is, it's my only clue to these horrifying visions. I need to know what's in it. I need to figure out the connection. If I do, maybe the nightmares will finally stop. I might even find out more about my mother. If I don't, I have a feeling I'll never be free of Gaius's ghost. Whether Hickory will be willing to share the book with me or I have to find another way to get my hands on it, I'm not sure. But I am resolved. Throwing the last of my few possessions into the trunk, one thought repeats through my mind. I must have that book.
Thanks so much for listening to Palace of Potions, Episode 2 of my On Wings of Ashen Dust mini-series. You can listen to the rest of this series through the playlist linked in the description below. Additionally, while this story was first released as a mini-series, all 6 books were later combined to form the full-length novel also titled On Wings of Ashen Dust, which is available now, and its sequel, On Wings of Crowns and Chaos, is coming April 10th, 2026, with the audiobook currently in production as well. At the time of publishing this video, I'm also hosting a fun book club style read-along for the entire On Wings of Ashen Dust story. If you'd like to join the read-along as you listen to these audiobook videos, simply sign up for email alerts in the description of this video, and I'll send you all the details. Of course, feel free to share any thoughts about Part 2, Palace of Potions, in the comments too. I'd love to chat with you, and I hope you thoroughly enjoy the rest of the series linked below.